Is anything happening? Is anybody there? Come on, there are 25 people here. So hello. 20 people. Oh, people are leaving. What is this then? What's happening? Ah, hello Adam. Good evening. How are you? I wasn't sure. I had a bit of a technical problem yet again. Are you well? Hi John, Martin, Archie, Richard Phelan, good evening. Stuart Hayes, the Manic Turner, good evening. How are you? Evening Mr. Rubin. Hello all. I'm glad we're up and running. I had a bit of a fright just now. One of my cameras decided to stop being recognised by OBS. Evening Duncan. Evening Adam. Yes, I've had a bit of a clean up actually. I've actually hoovered as well. Shop vacked up as well. Evening Jennifer, Steve Ellis, Steve Robbins, Ronnie, how are you? Pleased to meet you again. Fred Taylor, John Tyndall, Wayne Bigfoot. Good evening Richard. Ian Bryan, evening Brian, Anthony, Fred, my word. 67 at the moment. There are no problems, there are solutions. Alright Martin. You're my sage. Evening Tony E and Adam. Oh, I've said hello to Adam once. So you only get one hello Adam, not more than that I'm afraid. Tonight, good evening Shay. And Les, good evening. Oh, that's good. That's great. I was just wondering actually whether the picture's okay because I've gone up from 720p up to 1080. And I'm just wondering whether everything's okay. Hello Woody, how are you? I was watching Star Wars and the voice of Mike Will came over the top. That's a bit nasty. Hi Barry Fisher, how are you? Chris Cox, good evening. Good evening David Qualls. John, how are you? Good evening. Ciao Maro. Ciao. Tony Marlborough. Good evening. Evening Brian, Donald. Oh Donald, I am honoured. How are you Donald? And Fred, good, thank you Fred, that's nice to hear. Glad to hear everything's okay. Well, good evening. Hello Jim Rob, evening, I'm sure you meant to say that. Hi Jim. Hello John, we'll just wait another couple of minutes. Good evening Mr. Stratton, how are you Mick? Alright? Evening Simon, how are you? Just going off camera for a quick vape. Mike Hammond, how are you Mike? Nice to see you my friend, how are you? Bear with me a second. Yes John, you're not wrong. You're not wrong there John Trott. Evening Nick and Patrick, good evening. Well this is a first for me. I'll start, kick off. It's a first for me. I just wondered whether it might be a monthly possibility to do a Q&A, a general Q&A. I haven't prepared for it as such because I do get asked an awful lot of questions and I thought it might be an idea to be able to actually verbally answer them if people have certain questions, and I'm sure there are 95 of you now, and it's basically aimed at the newer turner, but having said that, it's always good to kick ideas between the more experienced turner as well. Now, I'm on my own, as you know, so what I think I'll do is to ask you to ask a few questions. When I say go, as it were, I can answer that question, and if I'm answering that question, I would ask people to hold up sending questions on the chat, because obviously I'll be answering the question. So where I can, I'll give visual aids to it and just see how it goes. And if it's successful and people get something from it, then it might become a regular thing. I didn't want to start the event or the stream, if you like, with a set agenda, because it's not what I need to know, it's what you want to know. It could cover anything to do with wood turning, anything at all. I know that's I mean, I might have to alter some cameras around if it's something that I haven't got set up for, but we'll see and work our way through it and wing it, as they say. Hi Steve, Jeremiah, how are you? Miss T, good evening, how are you? Ah, Richard, the Beard 16. You've asked me to you could never ask too many questions, Richard. I thoroughly enjoyed the other day. If anybody's looking there, the Beard times 16 does a great invasive video where he goes into people's workshops, basically, and asks them questions and basically a bit of a shop tour. He normally does it, or used to do it, in person, but now because of the lockdown and that, he's actually doing it via video. And I'll urge you to go across to his channel, have a look. There's some great interviews on there. There's a really terrible one next week, and it's me, so don't bother tuning in for that one. Okay, what are the 39 steps, Adam J? You know, I had no idea that anybody would be sarcastic or would ask silly questions, Adam J. I don't think the 39 steps of wood turning, my word, we better have a separate video for that, I think. Okay, hi, the like button for Mike. Oh yes, thank you Nathan, that's very nice. Yes, the like button's always welcome. Good morning, Mr. Twisted Trees. Okay, so I think what we'll do is I'll say, okay, now if anybody there has a question, and please don't think any question you ask, there's no such thing as a silly question. In my opinion, it's silly if you don't ask it. So I'll keep a close eye now on the chat, and as I say, literally anything, Adam J, to do with wood turning, okay? I mean, if at the end of the day you just it ends up just being a bit of a get-together, that's fine. Can't be worse than my invades, Mike, but it's a great series from Rich. It certainly is, Wayne. Yes, indeed, it is. Good evening, Bram. How are you? Evening, Shay. BB Turning. How are you? Maybe, okay, Old Faithful. Hi, Mike. Can I usually see your various chuck jaws mounted on the backboard, but would be able to show us a close-up and a quick explanation of what you've done? Yep, I can do that. That's not a problem. That question is from Old Faithful. I don't know if I can actually do that, but I think I can. Bear with me a second. What I've done is, what I'll do is move the camera that's on the tailstock end, and it might be a little bit shaky, but if I change to this camera, then I can walk through what I've done here. Let's do that. Okay, so that's fairly good, I think. Yeah, well, what I've basically done is literally put two bits of 3/4 ply together and just cut a V, screwed them together, and made 4 housings for the chucks, for the chuck jaws. I've tried various different methods over the years, and that seems to work well. And even at the top there with the bowl reversing jaws, etc., I've done a similar thing there. It's all very Heath Robinson, as is everything of mine. And while we're here, that area there where the chucks go, that was an idea that I picked up from Daniel Villarino years ago. No, it wasn't Daniel, actually. Sorry, it wasn't Daniel. It was, can't remember who it was now. And it's basically a large dowel turned and 4, in this case, 4 sort of tables, if you like, into which you can slot your chuck. So, but the jaws, going back to the question, I find that great. It really does work very well. Question about Pro Edge. After several weeks of dropping hints about getting one, the wife said just get one. When she found out I had got one, she went ballistic. What did I do wrong? Well, excuse me moving this, I'll just come back to my face. All I'll say is that maybe I'll put this on the tripod and then I can move him around as and when necessary. That might be an idea because we're not actually doing a turning per se. Bear with me. I thought that every eventuality would be sorted, but obviously not. Okay, so I'll just leave that there for now, and we can have that as our roaming cam. So if anybody has something that I can't actually, I've only got the overhead camera now. Okay, I'm right. Let's have a quick look here. Right, dusty corpse. I'm just starting out, literally building the shed and the lathe will go in. As a total beginner and likely teaching myself via YouTube, is there a project or technique I should do first? Dusty, that's a $1 million question. To be honest with you, get yourself sorted out first. Get your lathe set up, get a good set of tools, or get a set of tools, get a sharpening system of some sort, and literally research. If you haven't got the opportunity to go to a local club or to have a lesson, there are plenty of good starter videos on YouTube. Just take things carefully, enjoy yourself, don't take any risks. I'm not going to go through PPE on this particular question, but make sure you safeguard your face, your respiratory protection with filters, etc. And definitely obviously a face shield, and just take it slowly. That's my advice. And if you have any questions specifically, you can always message me and I can go into more depth with you. Right, John Trott, if I'm answering this question, if I could ask you to hold up on questions for a minute, or I might actually miss them. John Trott says, what your bowl gouge should look like after sharpening using the Wolverine system, such as the profile from the nose view. Well, if you take I'll take my 1/2 inch bowl gouge, and I think in the States it's called a 5/8 bowl gouge. I don't know if this, I actually thought this might come up, so I just did a little thing there to get some. Now if you can see that there, that is a 50-degree grind on the bevel here, and it's a swept back wing, and I do that on the Pro Edge, not the Wolverine. And there's a slight relief bevel there. I'm playing with the relief bevel on the bottom there. I don't know whether I'm going to keep it, but having said that, it works quite well. The angle of the bevel, etc., really and truly is a very personal thing. I have tried various angles, and the sort of 50 to 53 degrees suits my turning style very well. Don't get too hung up. It's not an exact science. A degree either way is neither here nor there. It depends how you turn. And if I don't answer the question fully, ask again. Hi Michael McGowan, Western Canada, how are you? I agree, Fred, that's how I started. Will do, Fred. Right, what did Fred say? Fred Taylor, watch Mike Walt beginners. I have got 2 sets of beginners series actually, but there are some excellent beginners apart from mine out there obviously. But I still maintain if you can join a club or get individual tuition, then that is the finest way to go. But if failing that, have a look at various YouTube videos and practice and see what suits you. Thank you, Martin. I appreciate that loyalty, my friend. Is the wing at 50 degrees also? No, it's not. The reason for that is that I use a jig, like a Wolverine, or I mean, I use the Robert Sorby. But when you have a jig, like so, and while you're moving that jig like this, it's obviously going around that way. So the only way you can get a 50-degree bevel on your wing, in my view, I might be wrong, is to actually do it by hand, which is something, it's an art I can't actually master. So the answer to that is no, it's not the same. The bevel angle of the wing is not the same as that. It's almost the same, but it's not exact. That's all right, Ivor. Nigel, I forgive you. Evening, Chris. How are you? If I've missed anybody joining, I apologise, but thank you very much for turning in. Hopefully you can learn something, not just from me, but some of the other. Shall I put that up a little bit if I'm going to be so close? How's that? That's better. I like to stand back here and look a bit smaller. Okay. Good evening, Steve Ash. How are you? Do you make your own lathe jigs, steady rest spheres, etc.? Yes, I do. Adam J. I don't know, you can see that steady rest there. That has been increased in height by 3 inches over the years, because my first over the bed was 8 inches. Then it went to 9 inches on my last lathe, and this one has 11 inches over the bed. So I've just added, it was going to be a prototype and I was going to make a proper nice looking one. But I never did. It works absolutely fine. So I can't be bothered to waste time making a nice looking one. It does the job when I need it. Do you make your own lathe? Yes, I've gone through that. When are you coming back to Wales? Next year to visit my friend in just outside Cambridge. But I'm not coming back to live. I've been gone since 1983 now. A genuine now, is the support above your left shoulder homemade? All right, Adam, this one here, yes it is. I made that many years ago, and as I just explained to another viewer, I haven't actually made a proper one of it yet, but that one works absolutely fine. I did a video on the making of it actually. That's so many years ago, but yes, I made it. Richard, what is the best? Oh, right, okay. Jennifer Staunton, what is the best respiratory and face guard to use? I have for 7 years used this, which is the JSP Power Cap Active IP. It has the increased protection on the face, and obviously the filters there. I have used and have actually got a Trend. This is extremely comfortable. There was some controversy about its level of filter. It's PP2, but to be honest with you, in conjunction with a good extraction system at the lathe at the point of making the dust, and also a filtration system in the sealing, which I've got, I have never had a problem with this, and I've used it, as I say, for 7 years. So, and it's very comfortable, so I would highly recommend this one. I think Axminster do one called Evolution, which is basically the same design and has the same spec as far as I'm aware. Hope that answers you, Jennifer. Richard Beaton, hi Mike, I'm struggling with my spindle gouge kicking back. What do you suspect I'm doing wrong? I had problems with that doing my, Richard, I had problems with that last week. When I was doing my off-center turning. Basically, if it's bouncing and it's skipping back, you're not getting bevel contact before you start into the cut. The first cut is a bit like taking off and landing a plane. They're the most dangerous parts. It's not the flying that's dangerous, it's coming back to earth and leaving earth, if you like. And same with the spindle gouge already. When you start your cut, that's the crux of it to get it going. You have to have, if you wish I could show you it later on, if you want me to do some showing you of that, I can do that with pleasure. But that's the main thing, is just getting that bevel contact and following that through and making sure that you keep bevel contact or bevel support. Good morning, Scott from Washington. How are you? Don't you like Easy Wood Tools? James Bedford. I do like Easy Wood Tools. I have the Easy Wood Chuck, which is a great piece of kit. I don't use carbide, period. The only time I use carbide is for hollowing, and I use the Simon Hope tools for that. Nothing against carbide. Carbide are a great invention, if you like, great for the newer turner and experienced turner as well. But I've got so much to learn with traditional tools. That is why I still use traditional tools only. Hi Mike, what's your opinion about Axminster trade? I haven't actually used the 406. I started off with the AWVSL 1000, I think, many years ago, 8 years ago. All the Axminster kit is good in my opinion. I've had two. I had the 1628 as well, and I've got no complaints about Axminster quality at all. And it served me well for a number of years. I'm just going back on the. Am I missing the FU230? Mr. Rubin, no, I'm not missing it because I've got its bigger brother, which is still a great bit of, an even heavier, better bit of kit if you like. So to answer your question, no, I'm not. Right, it's Jennifer there, Richard Beaton, hope I've answered that. Mark Bade. Hello Mark, how are you? Pleased to see you, my friend. Question Mike, this is from James Cassidy, have you got a preference over Simon Hope's quick release or grub screw handles? Very briefly and quickly, James, both are excellent. I do like the quick release for obvious reasons. Basically, because if you've got the quick release and they're double-ended, I've got the double-ended tools. If I want to move from one to the other, it's as quick as that. I have got some of the grub screw. Let's put this down a bit. I have got some of the grub screw handles as well, and they're on the single bladed tools that I've got because there's no need to change them out. But no, I've found that the quick release are brilliant. They really are. Right Escape. Hey Mike, do you do carpentry as well as wood turning? No, I don't. I do a bit of carpentry, bit of flat work, but my expertise in that is even worse than that of my wood turning. I do a lot of rustic stuff because you don't have to have exact joints. I used to do a bit of flat work, but I didn't really get into it that much, and wood turning is just my passion now. That takes over everything, but I can do a bit of flat work if necessary, but it's not something I really enjoy doing. Brian Davis, hi Mike, I'm having trouble with stab centres. I fit the stab centres and it doesn't matter how light a cut I take, the wood stops spinning. Really? Okay, I'm sure most of you know, but for those that don't know what stab centres are, that's a stab drive and that is a revolving stab centre. Now the beauty of those, obviously, they have spring centres in them, and you can bring them up with as much pressure as you require or you wish to put on there. Sorry about doing this, but everything's in reverse for me. And then if you do happen to get a catch, it will actually spin the wood. You won't get the catch won't actually be hardly noticeable. All will happen is your wood will start spinning. So my answer to that, Brian, would be put a bit more pressure on the work. So bring your tailstock up with a bit more pressure. Make sure that your tailstock is locked hard down and your headstock is locked hard down, because when you start to put quite a bit of pressure on, sometimes if everything is locked in place, you'll actually start to slide the headstock back, or the tailstock will start to slide back as well, so you're not actually gaining any pressure. And that would be my advice. Try it that way first and see, and don't do what I did once. I was doing a demo and I put the revolving center in the headstock and the drive center in the tailstock, and I wondered why the wood wasn't moving. Okay, so if you've done that, you're not alone. I hope that answered the question, Brian. If not, say so. Duncan Barber, how can I tell the difference between a spindle gouge and a bowl gouge? I've always struggled to identify the tools. Great question, Duncan. The easiest thing to do is to say, I thought that might come up, so I made this very Heath Robinson so I can get some focus on this, hopefully. No, hopefully that will focus. Okay, now let's get it. Yeah, there you go. Now on this is the bowl gouge. This is a 1/2 inch bowl gouge, and this is a 1/2 inch spindle gouge. Now the main difference between a spindle gouge and a bowl gouge is the depth of the flute. And the reason for a deeper flute in a bowl gouge, as you can see here, is to remove the chips or the shavings quicker. A spindle gouge has a shallower, wider flute because obviously you are doing more delicate work. Although this is a 1/2 inch spindle gouge I'm showing you, it still has a much shallower flute, as you can see. So that is how you can identify very easily a bowl gouge and a spindle gouge. Thank God I went to all the trouble and drilled those 2 holes. Does that answer your question, Duncan? Hopefully it does. Anna Bennett. Whoops, hang on, we've lost you. What's happened here? Anna Bennett. Right, I'm a bit behind. Anna Bennett, I noticed a difference in using my Sorby spindle gouge and another spindle gouge from the US. When I saw the flutes were different, which is the best spindle gouge shape to use for an Irish grind? To be honest with you, Anna, I wouldn't get too hung up on that. I mean, whatever, that has got a swept back grind. It's a standard crown, shallow fluted 1/2 inch spindle gouge. I haven't really used any other make with, yes I have, yes I have used a Robert Sorby actually, and there's not a lot of difference in the profile, Anna. I don't think, with bowl gouges it's a bit different because you can get parabolic flutes, you can get U-shaped flutes. That I think is what I would term a parabolic flute. And that's the sort of flute that I've always used, not by design, but that's what the manufacturers I've used have always had as their profile of the flute. So I would say a parabolic flute and a U-shaped flute on a spindle gouge. My 3/8 spindle gouge, if you can see that as well has a similar profile to the 1/2 inch, and that's a 3/8 spindle gouge. So it's a U shape is the I would think the accepted one on a spindle gouge. Nigel, Mike, have you ever had to change the battery for the JSP respirator mask for the 7 years you've had it? No, sir, I have not. I did have a problem with the motor a few years ago, but that was sorted out with only partial cost because it was out of guarantee. But apart from that, no. The battery is like touch. You shouldn't have asked me this, Nigel. It's going to die tomorrow. But no, it's, and I've used it, as I say, for years. Brian, it's approach angle. Nigel might do that. Right, Miss Teeswood, how did you arrive at your preferred angle of 50 degrees? I'm sharpening my gouges at the angle they came at. I would imagine then, Miss T, that the angle is 45 degrees. I might be wrong, but that's the standard factory angle. In the early days, I practiced with various different angles and got through a lot of cheap gouges, sharpening. I got absolutely hung up on sharpening. And to be honest with you, I think you ought to stick with a grind for a period of time, which then will show you where the shortcomings are of that grind. And through experience you might say, well, hang on a minute, if I make that a bit steeper or a bit shallower, I will be able to get more done on the type of turning I do. Everybody has their preferred angles. As I said earlier on, it's not an exact science in my personal opinion, because I'm not a professional turner. I use what works for me, and I'm always trying other little things out, but I've sort of standardized my setup now because I spent so much time trying different things out. I never actually got proficient at any one grind, any one type of tool. So I think it's important to stick with it, see where the shortcomings are and alter it to suit. Hope that answers you, Miss T. Hello Jay, when would you use the extra long chisel handle? That's from Adam J. This long handle I use on bigger stuff normally, but I'll be honest with you, I quite often use this all the time now, just because I feel comfortable with it. The brilliance of the handle is, whoops, here we are, look, that I can make it shorter should I wish. I can use it like that if I want to. And because of the interchangeable handles, I can actually put a shorter handle on if I'm doing a small bowl. But if I do that, I normally would use my 3/8. I use this for stability basically, and it gives me a lot more balance with a longer handle. I like to tuck it in, you see, into my side. So I like this because of that. But if I'm turning a small bowl, 3/8 spindle gouge. Martin Saban Smith turns everything virtually with his 3/8 bowl gouge because he loves it. I actually love my 3/8 bowl gouge as well, and I do use that an awful lot. I use that on spindles as well, just out of interest. Okay, hope that answered your question, Adam. All right, John M. Question: what is the difference? Oh, sorry, John PBH. Sorry, what is the difference between a spindle gouge and a bowl gouge? I did actually go through that, John. The flute is deeper on a bowl gouge, and also the stock is thicker. If I can just show you here, a half-inch spindle gouge and a half-inch bowl gouge. Okay, here we go. Half-inch bowl gouge, that's the spindle gouge, and then the bowl gouge. They're both billed as half-inch. Now they will do the measurements either the bar diameter or the distance between the edges of the flute. Different countries have different ways of measuring, but irrespective of, it's a much meatier piece of kit, the bowl gouge compared to the spindle gouge. And if you look at the 3/8 bowl gouge and the 3/8 spindle gouge, again you can see there's a terrific difference. Much bigger the bowl gouge with regards to stock stability than the spindle gouge. So hopefully that answers that question. John M, what is your success rate turning green wet beech? Been very good actually, and not because I'm a good turner, but beech is great. You have to obviously dry it properly. A friend lost a large tree and he sheared massive 20-inch diameter pieces, but I'm having cracks galore. It depends how quickly you turn it after it's been felled, John M. If you don't turn the piece to completion, or you rough turn it to completion, my advice, and it works for me, wrap it in cling film while it's on the lathe until you come back to it. Once you've turned it to the rough diameter, the rough shape that you want, leave depending on the size of the bulb, approximately an inch thickness, but make sure that thickness is consistent from the rim right the way down to the bottom of the bowl. That means then when it's losing its moisture, it will lose it evenly, because moisture wants to go through the quickest path. So if it has a thin bit and a thick bit, it's got to go for the thin bit, and that's going to crack. So turn it if you can in one session, and then either wrap it in brown paper or brown paper bag with the shavings you've turned from, and turn them over every week or two, and then it will warp, and it'll warp along the along the grain. I've got a bowl here that I just turned just in case somebody wanted some on there. So okay, I've turned the back now, so it's actually it's actually sort of not ovoid now, but it's got some lovely figure in this. But basically when I took it out of the shavings, it was that sort of shape. It was longer here than the sides because it goes along the grain. So you need to leave at least about an inch on a bowl even that size to give you plenty of meat to work with to get it round once you finish turning it when it's dry. But beech, I have found a brilliant wood, really good wood. Mr. Rubin, I know, Mike, I'm just jealous. I know that, Mr. Rubin. Corey Reynolds, good afternoon. Good evening, Corey. How are you? I'm absolutely amazed. There's 200 odd people here now just to listen to me prattle on and give my opinions on things. Mike, have you turned lime, and any tips? I have turned a very small piece of lime, Mick, or Mike, and to be honest with you, it was so long ago. It does turn like butter, as I remember, and that's really all I can say. Sharp tools, and it turns really well. A little bit bland, but it did turn very well. It reminded me quite a bit of you, actually, the way it turned. A very nice turn, as I remember. Fred Taylor, all stab centers are not stab centers but copies. Yes, I'll agree with that, Fred. That's very true. There are, but a generic stab center basically is a spring center with a cog effect of teeth. And I quite agree with you, there are many copies. But if you have a Sorby, which is a stab center, and I think there's a very good make in the States as well, they are a great investment. I use mine 90% of the time when I'm turning between centres. Trevor Doran, good evening, Mike. Good evening, Trevor. How are you? I'm trying to catch up with the chat now. Good evening, Mike. How many years have you been turning? You seem to have a huge amount of tools. I've got a lot less tools now than I had. I sold a lot, believe it or not. I became a bit of a tool junkie, actually. Trevor, I've been turning 8 years altogether. A lot of my purchases initially were off eBay, and I was given a lot of tools by friends who had tools, etc. They were wood turning, what you would call possibly Harbour Freight in the States, the basic tools. But yeah, I've sold a lot of tools and sold a few turnings, and I now have a make of tool that I really get on with. And one bit of advice to the newer turner: it's very easy to try this and try that. I think you have to make a decision. Stay with a certain manufacturer of tools. I had 3 or 4 different manufacturers' tools at one stage, and I never got proficient with any of them. And I had tools I didn't use, and that's why I sold them and just standardise what I have. I still have a lot of tools, I admit, but it's nowhere near what I used to have, believe me. And it's not as many as a lot of other people I know. But don't forget, a lot of the tools double-ended tools, so I have 2 tools in one handle. What do you think of 2-stage air filter units? I've got one here, and I can the wonders of having my one camera now on a tripod, which is not something I'll do. Caroline Henry's asked this question, and the question was, what do you think of 2-stage air filter units? If you mean, no, that's the wrong one. Hang on, no, that's the wrong one as well. That's the one. If you can see up there, I don't know if that's what you meant, Caroline, but that is an air filtrate. It's the very basic entry level, and it has a pre-filter, which is the one you can see, and there's another big filter behind that. And that has 3 speeds, and I think I'm right, in my garage, which is about 30 by 20, 25, something like that feet, 30 feet by 25, something like that. It cleans the air, I believe. Fresh air comes through that when it's on. Every 2, I think it's 2 or 3, 4 times an hour, the air is completely changed, and that's when it's on medium. So that's that. So I'll keep that camera on the tripod, so if anybody wants to ask anything or see something that I can't see with the static cameras I've got, then we can use that. I hope this is going all right. It is a bit Heath Robinson. It's very ad lib. I'm winging everything, but as long as you get something from it, that's all I'm interested in. Okay, let's try a bit more. When did you start losing your hair? Chris Pooley, when did I start losing my hair? Well, I met you, mate. I had a full head of hair till I met you. Let's have a look here. Caroline Henry, right. Chris Pooley. Brian Davis, hi Mike. I think both my stab centres are evolving. Brian, please don't feel too bad about it. There's a stab centre and a stab drive. Let me just forget the generics, whether it's genuine or not. The stab drive is solid. It doesn't move. The stab centre moves. like a live centre. So that is a live steb centre and that is a drive centre. You need the drive centre in the headstock and the revolving centre in the tailstock. And I'm not making fun of you, because I did exactly the same thing on a demo. I put them in the wrong way round and couldn't understand why the wood wasn't turning. Or every time I put the tool to the wood, it stopped. So you need a steb drive. When you bought those, I don't know where you bought them from, but you should have been advised that you don't need two steb centres. You need a steb centre and a steb drive. Ah dear. Gord Rock. Hello Gord, how are you? Gord Rock. Oh, lovely to see you from Canada. I'm sure a lot of you watch Gord on his YouTube channel. Brilliant. Really lovely fella. Nice to see you, Gordon. Thanks for coming through. I'm having a great day. I'm really enjoying myself. I'm just talking. Steve Ash, right, Davis, that's your answer then, buddy. You need a steb drive. Yeah, that is it. You do. You need a steb drive. But if you bought, may I just suggest that I might be opening a can of worms here. If you bought those two steb centres from a supplier and you spoke to them, then they should have advised you. If you just bought it online, then fair enough. I'm sure if you send one back, if you haven't used them, I'm sure they'll swap it over for you. Is hot chocolate, rum and raisin ice cream and cream good for you? DL Woodart, yes it is. It's extremely good for you, in my opinion. David McLennan, Wood Turning Arts. Good evening, David. How are you? Thank you. My pleasure, Anna. Steve Ash, the drive doesn't freely rotate. That's what goes into the headstock. Yeah, that's it, Steve. Yeah. It's the one, as I just explained, hopefully I explained it to you. It's the one which is static, the one that you can't turn. It's got no moving parts on it. And that is the one that goes in the headstock and drives the piece. Corey Reynolds. Good afternoon, Corey. I've said hello to you already. I'll say it again. Hi, Corey. The rum and raisin ice cream is part of your 5 a day. Yeah, it is. Damn right it is. It's part of your 5 a day, young man. Right, Simon Mason. What hollowing tools do you use or can recommend for different budgets? I have tried various hollowing tools, Simon Mason. I have used Simon Hope's hollowing tools for the last 2, possibly 3 years, and I highly recommend them. They start off, he does a full range. He does a mini hollower, one like this with a 6mm, and that really does get rid of some wood. For the smaller hollow forms, I quite often use this on my goblet cups as well. So there's that, the 6mm hollower, and he goes right the way through, does an 8mm and a 10mm as well. Captured system. If you go onto his website, onto Hope Wood Turning, even give Simon a ring and he will be more than happy to give you his advice. And he is a turner of some 30 odd years, so he knows what he's doing. And he's always very, very generous of his time. Simon, I'm glad Simon Hopkins, you said there's no right grind. No, there isn't. Simon Hopkins just said he agrees with me on the grinds. The grinds are a very personal thing, but unless you've had experience of a grind, a specific bevel angle, you can't really make an informed decision. The only way you can make an informed decision is to use what you've got and, as I said before, see what shortcomings you feel that has and experiment. Daniel Orr, just wanted to thank you for all of your time spent making these informative. That's very kind of you, Daniel. My pleasure. I thoroughly enjoyed it. It's lovely to be able to interact with my subscribers as well, which is obviously a good thing. For me, anyway. Not so much for you. Just getting started wood turning at 54, and you have been a great help. Daniel, I'm pleased. You started early. I didn't start till I was 60 odd, so, you know, and I'm only 62 now, so I wish. James Cassidy, Miss T, I started at 45%, then tried 50 for a while and now use 55. There we go, over the last year, which I now found really suits my turning, not so many catches and better finish. James, you've actually summed it up, as I've said. Whatever works for you is great. I personally think 45 degrees is a little bit But I tell you what, there is a superb turner, and his name is Stuart Batty. And if you watch Stuart Batty, he has the 40-40 grind, and my God, can that man turn! Watch his. Put in YouTube Stuart Batty's professional turner living in the States now, and watch his 2-hour video on turning a bowl for one of the American wood turning clubs, and I tell you what, it is phenomenal. He uses a 40-40 grind. He hand sharpens and gets a 40 degree on the wing as well as that. He uses another grind, I think 50 degree or something, to do the bottom end of the bottom of the bowl. James Casti, Miss T is started at 45. Yeah, well, you're basically saying, well, I totally agree. It is personal. Hi Brandstrup, how are you? John Bogdan, hi Mike. What type of belts are you using on the Pro Edge? A question by John Brogden, what belts am I using on the Pro Edge? I don't know if you can see with this camera, there are 3 up there hanging. I've got the 60 grit, the 120 and the 240. I use the 60 grit very little now because I've done all the profiling, but 60 grit is great for reprofiling your tools. And then from 60 grit go to the 120, and on there all the time is a 240, and it literally you just need to touch up. So once you've done all your profiling, you've got your tools in the right bevel angles and the right shape you want, then all you need to do is go to the 240, in my opinion. And you obviously have to have the other grits, because if you drop you drop it on the floor, or you take a ding out of the edge, or you hit a nail, you have to go back to basics. So the 60 grit really gets rid of some stuff for that reprofiling. Donald Trudeau, I have to go. Take care and stay safe. God bless. God bless you, and thank you very much for coming, Donald. Really appreciate it. Ian Blair, Mike, you are an inspiration. You would be a terrible, as you answer every question sincerely. Yes, I'm afraid, Ian, I do. I have been accused of being biased, especially if I do a review of a product. I say as I feel. It's what I believe. I'm not saying that what I say is right, but it works for me. And yes, I will answer questions till the cows come home in the honest way that I feel it should be answered. And if I don't like the answer I'm going to give, I might not give it. Thank you for that, Ian. I appreciate it. Archie May, does anybody know where I could purchase a white wheel for my grinder? It's 8 inches, 16mm bore. I'm struggling to get hold of one. Archie, which country are you in? You could get them from Record Power if you're in the UK. I don't know. That's all I can tell you, really. You could get one for the Record Power, because they do an 8-inch Record Power grinder, so you'd have no problem. But I don't know what country you're in. Still using the chisels I purchased off you on eBay a couple of years ago. Aidan, oh great. I can't remember which ones you bought, Aidan, but hopefully they're still lasting you. Glad you're pleased with them. See, and Aidan just said he's still using the tools I sold on eBay, so I wasn't lying. I did sell a lot of my tools to restock the ones I got now. John Toolman, thank you for sharing your knowledge. It's my pleasure, John. It's not a lot. It only takes 2 minutes to get all the information that's in my brain. Oh dear. Nice to see you, Danny boy. Thanks for coming, mate. Joseph. Oh yeah, of course, Joseph. You're right. Axminster as well, of course. I'm not sure if they do the 8-inch white outside. I tell you what, you could either Record Power or the Tool Post or Axminster. There we go, for your white wheel. Thanks for that, Joseph. Duncan Barber, thanks for that. My pleasure, Duncan. No problem. Do you still work? Aidan, do I still work? If not, what did you do before? I do still work. I'm on furlough at this precise moment. I'm a bus driver. Have been for the last 20 years. I won't go through my very checkered past, but I've had various things from shops. I've been in sales, and I had a pub for 11 years. And the last 20 years, I have been bus driving. But I haven't been bus driving for the last 11 weeks because I've been on furlough. So yes, I do work. Joseph King, John Potter, and I only use stab centres, got mine from RDG, so they call them crown drives. Yeah, that's fine, Joseph. Colin Pritchard, question. When using the Axminster C-jaws, do you use a parallel tenon or do you undercut the tenon with a 2mm parting tool to accommodate the profile on the front of the jaws, as I've seen others do? Colin, a very interesting question that. I don't often use the C-jaws now, but Axminster have, I mean, I've had these for 8 years because they came with the first chuck I had. Now, strangely, I hope the camera will pick this up now, these jaws have a dovetail profile on the outside of the jaw, and that is for a mortise for the jaws in expansion mode. Okay, and this isn't the actual one, but there. Okay, that's a mortise. But whereas with most, if you can see that profile there, it is a dovetail, and most jaws have a dovetail on the inside, but the Axminster C jaws do not. They have a ridge. If you can see that ridge around here, it's like a little ridge, and from the back of that ridge to the back of the jaw is straight. So what happens is it actually digs in to your tenon. It's a very secure hold as well, and it negates the need to get that accurate dovetail on your tenon. But that's just something a lot of people do still do the tenon, do the dovetail, because they never bothered to look at it. And I'll tell you, I did for at least a year. Always put a dovetail on my tenon for these jaws, and I really wasn't doing myself any favors. So yes, it hope that answers your question. Let's go back here. Don't know if I missed. Hope that answered it, Colin. Archie me, I'm in the UK, thanks, I'll give record Axminster and indeed the tool post. Give Felix a ring at the tool post, and I think they do them as well. Steve Ashworth effort, dude, it's all your fault. First turning vid was yours. Since then I'm addicted. Sorry about that, Steve. My humble apologies. Let's have a quick drink. Well, I must say something. You are an absolute fantastic bunch of guys. I've got 273 people at the moment, 275, and I'm not actually turning. I'm just talking, and we're just having a bit of a natter. You are absolute stars, all of you. Okay, Paul Lockwood, Axminster should do that. Yes, you're right, Paul. They will. Yeah, they will as well. Worth the effort. Don't paint me as a pusher. You're push cut, but not pusher. It's your own damn fault you jumped into this addiction. All right. Oh dear. I think everybody blames everybody for their addiction, but there you go. It's one of those things, isn't it? Corey Reynolds, Steve Ditto here, addicted since I watched Mike's first how-to video. The reason people got addicted after watching me, Corey, is the fact they thought I can do better than that. And 9 times out of 10 you did. Hello, Tom. Tom Wilcox. How are you, Tom? Tom has said, yes, he works, but as little as possible. That's not strictly true, but yes, it is. Especially at the moment. Being on furlough, as I keep saying. Archie me, Paul Awkward, brilliant. Thanks for that. Okay, that's good. I'm glad I've... Hello, Stuart. Hang on, I've lost you now. Where are you? Stuart Farini. Hi, Stuart. I did pop in very quickly, but I had to have my dinner and I had to get this prepared. And lucky I came out on time because one of my cameras wasn't... One of my cameras wasn't working. So, anyway. Lovely to see you, mate. Do you miss... Right, Stuart Freeze asked me a question. Do you miss your CBN setup for any sharpening jobs, or does the Pro Edge do everything for you? And thanks for popping in. My pleasure popping in, and the plain and simple answer is, Stuart, and I say hand on heart, I don't miss my CBN wheels at all. What I did miss was the cash I had to fork out initially to buy the 2 wheels and the slow speed grinder and the Wolverine. If I add up all that cost, it's frightening. It was a great system. But the Sorby Pro Edge, honestly, is so repeatable, it is so quick, and it is a lot cheaper. I know the belts are, you have to replenish the belts, obviously, depending how often you use them, but the cost of the belts are negligible in comparison to the total outlay for a CBN setup. That's all I'll say. I just think it's the best thing since sliced bread. I wish I'd tried it before, honestly. Aidan, have you looked at the blind wood turner? Think it's incredible how he manages. Chris Fisher is a very good personal friend of mine, actually. Aidan. I met Chris. I've got something up here. 19th of July 2014 is when I first met Chris. He came down with his then wife and his son, and they spent the day here, and I did a little video actually with Chris doing some turning on my lathe. He's an absolutely incredible guy, such an inspiration, and such a brave man, because what he does is doesn't come easy to him, but he is a fighter, and by God, he's a lovely fella. I mean that. Absolutely fabulous fella. Stuart Hayes, the Manic Turner, evening worth the effort, I'm sure responsible. Mike had me hooked. Sorry about that, Stuart. Paul Dixon. That's very kind of you, Paul Dixon. I appreciate it, mate. Thank you. I wish my wife loved everything I did regarding wood turning. Corey, look down. See the bugs running. Oh dear. Okay, let's have a look here now. If you have a project that's right, okay. Hang on, have I missed something here? So are you, mate? Don't forget to give me the thumbs up. Thank you, Steve. That's very kind of you. Yes, if you can be bothered to hit the like button, that is brilliant. That helps out a lot. James Cassidy, question. If you have a project that is going to come in contact with food, is it correct to say that as long as the final finish is food safe, it does not matter if the underneath is not food safe? James, it is really down to you. If it's going to be a fruit bowl, I would suggest no problem at all. There is you ask 10 wood turners a question, you'll get 12 different answers. Everybody has their pet hates, has their pet preferences. I personally feel, and I'll get shot in flames for this, 99% of finishes, when they're fully cured, not dry, in my opinion, are food safe. However, there are exceptions. So if you would be foolhardy to just willy-nilly carry on and use anything and say, oh, that's got to be food safe. If you use mineral oil, use a food safe, walnut oil, waxes, Hampshire Sheen High Gloss is food safe. The Danish oil is food safe from Hampshire Sheen, and there are other products which are food safe. To be honest with you, if you're going to put a food safe finish on the inside of a piece, why not put it on the outside? Why have two different finishes? But that's my opinion. Simon Rock comes to be all artists in a row, right? Tim Grange, I might love watching. Thank you, Tim. Appreciate it. And takes up less room. I missed that. Bram? Oh, yeah, sorry. I presume you're going about the... Yes, the footprint of the Pro Edge is tiny in comparison to a CBN setup as well. Yeah. Thanks for that, Bram. Mike, totally agree with the saw. Yes, Martin from... oh, sorry, Mark, the gentleman wood turner, Basher. Mark, yeah, everybody I've spoken to is over the moon with the Sorby. Some people say there's a few restrictions. Well, I personally haven't found any restrictions with it whatsoever. Having said that, it suits me. When I got it, the profiles were slightly different on my tools now than they were when I had a CBN setup. I spent quite a long time getting everything done, and it takes seconds now to put an edge on things. Absolute seconds. That's my opinion. I think they're brilliant. I absolutely think they're brilliant. There's another guy there, Twisted Trees. He agrees as well with the Pro Edge. Talk about food rests, please. Original rounded like yours. Corey, the The tool rest that came with my lathe is this one. It is sort of what I term a standard shape. I like it. I like it a lot. I've got several types. That again is a Sorby, and there's various size bars that screw onto that. Do you know what? It really depends how I'm feeling. If I'm doing a big piece, I will always use the big rest, but sometimes I like these. If I'm doing hollowing, I quite often use that because the round bar, everything moves nice and smoothly. It doesn't ding so easy as the others. And that is my small rest that I use, which is the same sort of profile as the other one. Very important thing to do, keep this part that the tool goes across, keep that free of dings. And no one's asked the question. I always, I mean, I've only had this lathe 2 minutes. You can see possibly all this is worn here. Every time I start to turn, I will use some 0000 wire wool like that. And when it's in the tool rest, obviously, just give that a quick shot over there. Gets rid of any sap, any crud that's been collected from your previous turnings. And believe it or not, I do the same on the underside of my gouges. Just with the 0000 wire wool, just do that. Because it's amazing how often you get a build-up on the underside of your gouge and a build-up on your tool rest. And the two don't get on well. And when you're doing a long cut, a peeling cut, a shearing cut or whatever, it's almost sticky. But if you do that, my advice, and also I use wax on there as well, just to make everything slide smoothly. Hello from Crete. Hello George Durakis. Welcome. Bram, gentle turn, there's an attachment for carbide cutters. Yes, there is an attachment for carbide cutters for the Pro Edge. I haven't got one, but you can get an attachment for carbide cutters as well. Stuart Hayes, the Mank Turner, the Pro Edge is one of the best investments I've made. No more spending hours on a whetstone. If you had a Tormek or similar, then you have my sympathies, because that is a very slow way of doing turning tools. I think for bench chisels, etc., not so bad, but the edge on a turning tool, even if you've got the latest M42 or whatever it is, you've got wood spinning onto your edge, and the edge is not going to last anywhere near as long as your bench chisels, because that is an inert wood, if you like, basically. But yeah, I'm sure you do enjoy the Pro Edge now compared to your whetstone. Dear. Hello to Indonesia, Anak. Hello there. Thanks for joining me. How are you? Stuart Freeney, how? Cheers, Mark. Do you think a love stream will get more? Oh dear, I think it will, Stuart. Yes, I'll sign up for that one, Mr. Farini. Ah dear, James Cassidy, Mike, absolutely agree with your comments on the Pro Edge. Thank you. There's another happy punter. No, I mean someone else who is agreeing with me on the Pro Edge. I mean, it is a brilliant bit of kit. I wish honestly that I'd bought one in the very beginning. I really do. Mark Bay probably already showed the Sharpening Pro Edge, but do it again. Yeah, I can do that if you want. How about these belts? Are they special for carbide or M42 or harder than HSS steel? I got high speed. I got Crown Cryo, and it works fine. And the belts will sharpen carbide tips, so I don't think M42 would have any problem. Well, I know it wouldn't. None at all. And you can actually, if you want to invest a lot of money, you can get a diamond belt, which will last forever. Martin Saban-Smith's got one of those. He's had it about 3 years, I think. But I just don't turn enough to warrant that sort of expenditure. But yeah, I don't have a problem. I've never had a problem with any of my tools with the Pro Edge at all. There are different belts, I must say this, there are different belts, but I don't know whether they're specifically for carbide. I know that these are ceramic belts, and they do aluminium oxide belts as well, and then I say the diamond belt. The diamond belt's very difficult to get a hold of at the moment. Worth the effort. Turning tools cut at plus or minus a mile a minute. Take a bit longer to cut a mile of wood than... Yes, indeed. Worth the effort. I quite agree with you. That's what I was saying. When you're talking spinning wood, I mean, there's a lot of forces and a lot of force on that edge. That's why when people say, oh, you know, I hone my turning chisels, that's fine for finishing cut. But for general work, you want a more robust edge. And, I mean, 240 does me fine. Mind you, my turning shows that, I suppose. Oh dear. How do you mark sign your work? Adam, I use a branding iron. And somebody, one of my subscribers kindly made, and it's basically on it's electric, and it's basically an end put onto I can't think of the word, my brain's gone. Oh dear, when you get old it's terrible. A branding iron. That's what I've got, and my logo and name is in there, and it's basically, I can't think what that's called. Oh god, for a soldering iron, thank you. I remembered soldering iron, and it works really well, it really does. Again, I was thinking of getting some little discs made up, but I'll be quite honest with you, I don't sell a lot of my stuff because nobody wants it. No, I mean, I give a lot of my stuff away, so I don't think that's worth it really. Mark, the gentleman would turn a serious question. Do you experience turner's mind if us newbies copy your styles, designs, ideas, as long as credit is given? Mark, what a wonderful question. Mark, the gentleman turner, has asked, does anybody mind if somebody copies their work? No, absolutely not. I mean, everybody puts a different spin on it. No one's got a patent on a design or a way of doing things. I think out of courtesy, if it's obvious that it's your take on something that you've been inspired to do by another turner, then I think it's only fair to give that turner a shout out and say I was inspired by whoever. And that's just a normal courtesy in my opinion. Nobody has rights on anything to do with anything in the wood turning world, in my opinion. Everybody has their own take on it. But if you're inspired to have a go, then yeah, give that person who's inspired you, give him a bit of support and thank him. That's all you would, all anybody would wish. I personally find it an immense, very humbling when someone says, oh, I was inspired by watching you doing this. I mean, 9 times out of 10, what people do, they copy me, they do far better than I do, which is brilliant. But that's what it's all about. If you're on YouTube or you're giving people a bit of inspiration, the job is done. It's getting someone inspired to go out and try it for themselves. Diamond belt is about... Yeah, Stuart Hayes has said that the diamond belt's about £160 for the Pro Edge. And to be quite honest with you, I don't know how much the ceramics are now. I think I just bought some actually. About £3 sterling each. You can buy an awful lot of belts. If you're a professional turner, like Martin is, and he does a lot of turning, then you might be able to justify it, but I certainly can't justify that sort of expenditure on belts, because I don't use the 60 and the 120 hardly at all. It's only the 240, and I just keep replenishing those, and I haven't had to replenish them on a regular basis. You can also keep them clean with the old belt cleaners, you know, the stuff you would use on your belt sander. Worth the effort said, most experienced turners copied elements of others themselves. Of course they do. But I think the great thing is, because this craft is so giving, that people don't mind you, oh, I'd take a bit from this and a bit from that when you come up with your own, you know. I mean, people like myself, I haven't got my artistic leanings. I look at other people, I'm a plagiarist, if that's the right word, is it? Yeah, pugilist is a boxer, plagiarist is a copier. That's what I do, but it's my own take on it. God forbid it looks anything like the original one that I looked at. But no, that's what it's all about. You get ideas from people. You know, nothing is patented, is it? Are you Supernova 2 chucks and jaws? Do I need dovetails when I use them in tenon spigot mode? I would imagine, I don't know, Mr. Fensick. I've never used Nova chucks. If there's somebody on here that uses Nova chucks, which I'm sure there are, most chucks, the easy wood jaws, they have a dovetail for the mortise, i.e. on the outside of the jaw, and also a dovetail on the inside of the jaw. But as I said, with the Axminster, the dovetail is on the outside of the jaw for the mortise, for the expansion mode, not for the compression. But most do, but I don't know about Nova. Sorry, I can't answer that. Gentle turn. Are the belts? This is turning into a Sorby Pro Edge evening. No, it's all right, I'm only joking. What have I lost? Ah, hang on, I've lost somebody now. Let's go back up here a bit. Oh, thank you, Rob. I appreciate that. Thank you, sir. Gentle turn, the tool post. Yeah, okay, we've gone back there. Where are we now? Wood turn. I've lost my place now. Paul, question. Right, who was the last person works you saw that you copied, decided to put your own take on it? Who, me, Paul? Well, to be honest with you, I won't say nobody's inspired me, but I tend to do goblets, I do bowls, and I think the last person that inspired me actually was Stuart Farini. Not because he's on here, because he made colouring look so much fun, like Martin does, and I'm not a colouring person, so I've had a bit of mess around with colour, not too much, but it's good. Everybody inspires me. I always take a bit from somebody, a bit from somebody else, Steve Robbins, Mike, that is the best way to regrind the Pro Edge of Dink record. No longer make one for my lathe. What is the best way to regrind edge of a dinked tool rest? Oh, to be honest with you, abrasion. What I do, I use, depending how bad the dinks are on there, use sandpaper or abrasive and go down as you would with a piece. I use, this is just a piece of wood. I use that on the lathe sometimes as well, because then you're not going to hopefully get a dip in the lathe, okay, sorry, in the tool rest, okay, if you use a straight edge with sandpaper wrapped around it. Then go down to about 600, then what I use this ultrafine 3M stuff, and I do along there with that, and then I finish off with 0000 wire wool, and then after I've done that, I'll give it a quick waxing as well. You don't need, it's not that hard, this stuff. That's why the robust lathes and that have a hardened steel, high-speed steel, hardened steel bit which your tool runs along, so they don't dink. And the other thing, of course, is if you're using a traditional skew, which I don't do, some of the original skews didn't have rolled edges, they were square edges. So if that's the case, my advice, if you use a traditional skew with not rolled edges, just round them over with a bit of, put them in a vise and just round it over with a bit of abrasive. That's a bit kinder on your tool rest then as well. Wood turning by Brandstruck. Where'd you buy the 220 grit ceramic belts? From Oliver's Wood Turning. That's where I get my belts from. 2 days, Mike. I tried copying your style, but I can't get a goblet to fly. Sorry. Well, I'm not teaching you well enough then, Stuart. Mind you, I don't suppose you, I would like to say I possibly have turned maybe a couple of 300 goblets in my time, maybe a few more. The ones that go flying are normally the off-centre ones, the eccentric ones, as you well know. But keep trying, it'll happen, Stuart. Keep going, mate. You'll get it one day. You'll be able to make one fly. Archie me, is there a local club to you? I'm joining one with lockdown is over. There is one. No, there's not actually. That's a lie. It's not a club as such anymore. There used to be one at Bedford Saw and Tool, but I think they meet once a month now. I've never been a member of a club, I'm ashamed to say, because with my job I normally work on a Saturday, and that is normally a day when they meet, or most clubs meet. So I've never joined a club, to my shame. I highly advise you to join a club, anybody who is learning and starting, join a club, and better still, get lessons. Because if you decide to have lessons further down the line, your tutor is going to spend most of his time getting rid of all your bad habits. Take it from me, because I've got loads of bad habits, I really have. Let's go down here, Manic. We've gone. Am I keeping up with things all right? I don't know if I am, you know. Don't believe the... Right, Stuart. Oh, Mike, I'm blushing. Oh, no, Stuart. Don't blush, mate. It's true. Oliver Woodturning. Nova can use the Patriot Jaws. Oh, good evening, Ed. Sorry, I didn't see you turn in, mate. Beg your pardon. I'm going back a bit here. I've obviously missed quite a bit here. I do apologise. Maybe this format is not as good as I thought it might be, because I'm missing things. Been eating. Ed Oliver said he's been eating. Well, I tell you what, you do need to put weight on it. You're looking very thin, mate. Very thin. Gentle turn, Martin. Are the belts special ones only available from Sorby and the shops selling Sorby products, or can I use one from the DIY store? Martin, I would not recommend that. Don't ask me why. I've always been that way inclined, where I tend to go for something that is specifically made for that specific machine. That's just me. Not to say they won't work, but they could cause problems, but they might not. That's all I can say, mate. I've never tried it myself. When we start success finishing a project, have looking at close to what we hoped without blowing up. How's your opinion of a successful turn changed? Worth the effort. Finishing a product and having to look at it. No. A project I do for myself. I very rarely get asked a commission with specific dimensions or things. It's normally a freehand, and that's what I like. But yeah, I must be, it's a bit like videos. I'm never 100% happy with anything I do. I'm never 100% happy with any video I've made, and I've made over 300 now, not counting the live streams. I'm never happy with them, and the same with my pieces. Other people disagree, thankfully. Not so much the videos, but the pieces. W4E, hi Mike, what are the benefits of the hollowing tools like the Hope one over using a spindle gouge when hollowing goblets boxes? Is the finish any better? No, the answer to that is no. If you've got a good tool presentation and you're hollowing out with a spindle gouge, which I normally do, or I use the 6mm mini hollower, it depends how I feel. I've got the option. The mini hollower really does hog wood out, and you can do a lovely finishing cut with it as well. But I like using, as I've said earlier on, I do like using traditional tools where I can. And especially with the demo, if I use a spindle gouge, whether it be a 3/8 or a 1/2 inch, it's quick and I can get I normally get a good finish. Then I finish off with a negative rake scraper around the walls to get a nice glass finish. That's just me. We're turning a crafts high, right? Stuart, I have to go. Stuart, thank you very much for coming, mate. I really appreciate you turning up. That's very nice of you. Enjoyed yours this afternoon as well, although I don't like colouring much. Thanks for coming, mate. You take care. Miss T, if you live in Bedfordshire or Hertfordshire, there's Hartsbed, Woodturning, Hemel Hempstead. Right, there we go. Miss T knows more than I do. There apparently is a woodturning club, and it's called the Beds, or Hertfordshire. There's the Hearts and Beds Woodturning Club, and it's in Hemel Hempstead. Miss T is on social media, on Facebook. I haven't got the details, but I'm sure if you Google it, you will find the details. Mike Stratton, the Bedford Saw and Tool Club wouldn't let Mike become a member. No, that's very true. My secret is out, Mick. Thank you for that. I appreciate it. Sam Opp. Hey, you are back from Minsk. Phoebe missed you. All right, Bigfoot. Sorry. Bram the Waysville. Mike, have to go, mate. Thank you very much, Bram. I appreciate you coming. Thank you very much indeed. You take care and give a love to the good lady. Colin King, Martin. Yes, Colin. Martin has a brilliant video on the Pro Edge. I've got one as well, which is not that brilliant, but I've got one on the Pro Edge as well. If you just put Pro Edge into Google, you'll come up with a load of different videos, and that should give you a really good insight. Thanks for that, Colin. I didn't want to mention me, of course. Evening, Stuart. How are you? Hi, Rob. Patrick Bowers. Hello, Mike. Doing well, hope. Yes, thank you, Patrick. Second Tuesday of the month. We hope to restart meetings soon. Okay, T, that's great. Thanks for that information. T is saying that the Beds and Hearts Wood Turning Club meets on the second Tuesday of each month, and they hope to restart meetings soon. Obviously not at the moment because of lockdown. Any chance of close-up of the steady rest mic? I know you spoke about it earlier. Yes, I can show you it close-up. It's not a pretty sight, let me tell you. Hang on, let's see what we can do here. I'll just change the camera angle. I'm just changing it to the steady rest. No, hang on, which one is it? Is it that one? Yeah. No tittering, okay? I'll be most upset if you titter. Hang on a second, you've got to get sick now. Right, there it is in its glory. It's basically plywood. I did do a video on it. The reason it's so high is because I've had to increase the height as I bought lathes which got a bigger swing. But it works very well. Second-hand skateboard wheels and plywood and a few screws basically. Let's leave. If anybody wants anything specific, I can move this camera about if you want me to. Ah dear. As I said, I did do a video on that. DL. Would you recommend regrinding my regular scrapers to negative rake? MJ Cross. Personally, I would say yes, but that's me personally. Be wary that if you have, like I prefer, a 35 degree grind, the edge will not last as long as a normal scraper. But even if you just try it, my suggestion, put a relief bevel of about 25-30 degrees on the top. Keep your, whatever your scraper is, and see the difference. And I'm sure you'll be hooked. It's less grabby and leaves a really good finish. I'm not saying standard scrapers don't leave a good finish, because they do. But they're not as easy to use, in my opinion, as a negative rake scraper. That's just a personal opinion. I have reground all my scrapers to having a relief bevel or negative rake 35-35. I've got two standard grind, and that's basically for videos when I'm showing people what a standard grind is compared to a negative rake. Can I explain, Steve Robbins, can I explain the negative rake? Certainly can. If we take a, oh God, I haven't got a standard scraper. No, I haven't got one scraper. Okay, yes I have. Right, okay. I'm not really set up for this, so I don't know if you can see it or not. That is a standard scraper. That is a 60, that is, it happens to be a 60 degree bevel. Let's put it on my face there. Okay, now with no angle on the top face. Now a negative rake starts, that is the same half-inch scraper. Let's go here. Same half-inch scraper. It has also a 60 degree bevel, but it has a relief bevel on the top of 25 degrees, which takes no time to achieve. All I'll say is try it and see the difference. Okay, so that's that one. And then a negative rake, this is my favourite. That was a 1-inch round nose scraper, and I changed that to a 35-35 grind. You can see that there. And that is my go-to refining tool. It is absolutely brilliant. People will say you need this, you need that angle. Again, it's personal preference. I did a lot of experimentation and I found that that works for me personally. Doesn't mean to say it's the only way of doing it, but that is basically a negative rake. And just to prove my conviction, I'm still grinding this. This is a, I've had this about 7-8 years. It's a Crown heavy duty bowl scraper. Still has the same profile, but it now has a 35-35 negative rake on it. And the reason that the bevel isn't complete there's an awful lot of steel needs to be taken away, and I'm not going to waste it. I've got a good edge there, and that's all I want. And they're both, that's 35-35, and I swear by it personally. Okay, let's have a look here. Hope that answered your question. Could you please explain the negative rake? Well, that is my explanation of the negative rake, and as I say, there will be, Steve, many different opinions about what works, but my old adage is try it and see. Hi Sean T, please, nice to see you too. Hobby Turner, Stuart Freeney. I asked earlier about you doing another resist, was when Mike sent you his sticker. Spooky. Yeah, spooky. Paul Lockwood, I would never have thought that so many wood turners would get so excited about a belt sander. Well, I tell you what, Paul, we get excited about really strange things as turners, don't we? Hey? Oh dear. Paul Lockwood, yes, got to remake another steady rest after changing the lathe. Yeah, well, I don't think you have to, Paul, you don't need to make a new one. You just have to, look, do what I did. Just keep adding bits of plywood to it to raise it, mate. As long as it works, that's all that matters. Wood turning by Brown Strip, thanks, my pleasure. Worth the effort, temping us, extending. Joseph King, we'll try extending 400, 600, reducing the pressure you put on the sandpaper. I missed something there, did I? I missed something about sanding. Thanks, I'll definitely try it this week. I see Joseph is talking about sanding. That is exactly reducing the pressure. My adage is the same pressure for every grit. If it was a sanding question, which I missed, which I apologise for, one of the biggest mistakes I made, and people do make, is the different pressures through the grits. Psychologically, you will put more pressure on the harder grits, psychologically, and then the finer grits have got no chance of getting rid of the scratches, because that's all they do, are meant to do, is get rid of the heavier scratches from the heavier grit. So if you can train yourself, and I and many others I think as well spent many hours just sanding a bit of wood and seeing how good I could get the finish, and that's the only way you'll do it. The same pressure right the way through the grits, and you'll get a good finish with no radial marks. Here endeth the first lesson. Okay, Steve Robbins, I'm sure you let me know, message me, let me know what you think when you've done it. Would you recommend the Hope wood tooling? Nathaniel Griffiths, would you recommend the Hope wood turning tool system? Yes, I would. I use them. I tried them when I was doing a demonstration up at Harrogate about 2 or 3 years ago, and I fell in love with them. And I wanted to standardise everything. I had Henry Taylor, I had Robert Sorby, I had Record Power, Axminster, Hamlet. I had a lot of different tools, a few of each, and I decided I was going to sell everything and make a tool. And after using the Hope their Crown Cryo tools, I fell in love with those, and that is the majority of my tools. Yes, I would highly recommend them, and they're hollowing tools as well, from a personal point of view. Worth the effort. I came in because the shop was over 100. Oh God, I think it's 95, 96 outside, but work in steel warehouse. Go, 100 degrees. I mean, that hot here. It's been 30 degrees here, which is about, I don't know, 70 or 80 possibly in your money. And that was hot enough. Do you need a burr on net? Yes, you do. One thing to remember with a negative rake, if you take this, I have this in a grub screw handle, and I always use that as a guide. That's the top. Now, when I touch up, I don't touch up both sides. I mean, I eventually will do the other side a bit to balance it out, but I only touch up the underside because you want to raise the burr. And bearing in mind the wood is coming down this way, so I need the burr raised on this edge here, so I will sharpen the underside like you would with a standard scraper. Okay, so you don't need, or you don't actually sharpen both sides, but you must remember which side you sharpened and which way you present the tool to the wood, because your burr has been raised on that top edge there by sharpening underneath. Hope that answers the question. Hang on, I've gone past again. Made your own sandpaper. Right, I'm catching up now, hoping to catch up. Do you need a burr on that? Has Mrs. Wald done any turning with you? No, she hasn't. Peter? No. Can't even get her into clean-up. Steve Drembo, forgive my ignorance, but why is it called negative rake? To be quite honest with you, Steve, because it has a negative angle, if you like. It is not a single bevel. That is my understanding of it. As soon as you put another angle on it, it becomes negative rake. Most probably totally wrong. And to be honest, I don't really care why it's called negative rake. It's one of those shapes. It's because we don't get out much. Yes, I agree. Yeah, you're right there, Mark. Are Nova lathes any good? Jeff Lynch, never used one, but people who've got them swear by them. So the answer has got to be yes, they are. I would think. My large bowl scraper came magnetic and sticks to the tool rest. Any ideas how this happens and how do I fix it, as I find it difficult to use? It's a Robert Sorby. You can get, some people say give it a good old smack on a bit of metal. Don't do that because you'll ruin it. You can get something, I forget what they are now, but you can get a demagnetizer. I don't know how much they are. You can do that. But I had a couple of mine go to do that, funny enough, and it is really annoying. Have I ever made my own sandpaper? Tropical 32? No, I haven't. Is the answer to that. Stuart Hayes, wood turners get wood. Never mind excited. Yeah, you're very true there. Tropical 32 has retracted his message. Oh well. Joseph King, I had the Nova DVR 3000, it was fantastic. There we are, the Nova, yeah, a Nova Galaxy. Have you tried Glenn Lucas tools? No, I haven't. But they are, I believe, Hamlet tools, aren't they, with his own grind. Or a grind that he endorses, let's put it that way. By a about £6. I've been told there a demagnetizer is about £6 UK, so it's not a great deal of money to get your bowl gouge, your bowl scraper working properly again. Jeff Lynch, keep it all. Other clubs can reopen soon. Yeah, that's true. Hopefully clubs are going to be reopening soon. No berth for exotics like Coca-Cola. No, you're right there, Rob. I don't turn a lot of exotics, I must be honest with you. But yeah, you don't need it. You don't want a burr. You actually want to hone. That's a piece of tungsten, and you just take the burr off. You go across here, and just that's the edge I'll be using, and you just take the burr off about 10 degrees, maybe 5-10 degrees, and just go round, and that takes the burr right off. Store my lathe tools on. Well, they're all magnetic. You can buy bulk demagnetizer or ignore it. Yeah, Ken's saying he stores his all on a magnet. I would never do that personally because of that problem. But there you go. You get used to it, I suppose. New clubs being formed on the line. Yes, James Cassidy. I'm not doing any promotion, but if you look for Wood Turning 360, that's one of the new clubs that has just started online. And got some great demos up, etc. Just put in Wood Turning 360 and we'd love to see you there. Hi Trace, a bit late I think. This is great if you're wondering, as it's one-way feedback. Thank you Adam, I appreciate it. That's all I'm hoping to do is get some questions answered and give a bit of entertainment to people and a few answers as well. Hello all, Mamba Bear, She Shed Tracy Keaton, hello, how are you? Les, Mike, what are your negative rake angles? They vary, but if I say my favourite is 35, 35. Both bevels, 35 degrees, 35 degrees. That is my preferred negative rake angle. Other people will have different ones, no doubt. it might be worth the effort. That might be a good explanation of what negative rake is. Negative rake because it rakes off the negative aspects of your bowl. A very technical, that's my sort of explanation. I totally agree with you. What's the difference in skews, rolled edge, radius, etc.? I haven't got any standard skews, and all mine I think are rolled edged as well. Yeah, that is a radius skew, and that is basically a standard skew which I made into a radius skew. I prefer radius skews because I'm a bit of a chicken. No, I just find them more forgiving and I like them. So all my skews have now got a radius. The rolled bit I was talking about is this edge here which meets the tool rest. There are, I don't know if they still do them, I haven't bought a skew for years, but they didn't have rounded edges, and in fact that's rolled edge, which means the edge that is on your tool rest, it doesn't ding in. This one has got a round edge as well. I think I put it on there myself, but they do come with rolled edges or without, and if they haven't got rolled edges it's not as soft on your tool rest. But a standard straight across Steve Jones is the, you know, the best in my opinion. Production wood turner in the UK here, and he uses a standard skew and he makes that thing sing, he really does. But he's got 30 years experience under his belt. Steve Church, I'm struggling to get a gloss finish from Hampshire Sheen. My go-to is chestnut friction polish, which I have a good results with. What's the trick with Hampshire Sheen? Steve, there is no trick with Hampshire Sheen. If you use a sanding sealer, let the sanding sealer go, let it completely dry. Hampshire Sheen, don't put too much on. A couple of 3 light coats are better than one big splodge, in my experience. Go across to Martin Saban-Smith's Hampshire Sheen channel and he will show you how to use it properly. But having said that, it's a wax and it will go on as any other wax. But everybody has their preferences. Question, Mike. James Casti. A tip for Pro Edge users, put magnetic strips to the bottom right of the base. It collects all the metal filings in one place. Yes, the metal filings obviously have to be collected. They do fly everywhere. I did put, James is saying put magnetic strips at the bottom, it collects them all, but then you've got to get it off the magnetic strips, and after a while I stopped using them and I just use the shop vac. But yes, it will reduce the amount of splatter, if you like. Nice one, James, thank you. Lee Pastor, thank you for your answer. It's not me, no, it's not Lee, definitely not, whatever it was. It's not just you. Nothing is just you, believe me. Stuart Battery said he wished he called it natural rake instead. Oh dear. Right, let's have a look. Any more serious questions here? If I'm missing you, please accept my... You might try using less wax. Yeah, Stuart's just said as well, it might sound silly, but try using less wax. Thin coats, that is the secret, in my opinion. Chris Pooley, how much Diet Coke do you get through in a day? A disgraceful amount, Chris. Disgraceful amount. I should imagine I average 4 to 5, 6 cans a day in the hot weather. But I drink very little alcohol, if at all. So that's my argument. Nigel, Mike, do you know anything about using metal filings from the Pro Edge to make an ebonizing solution? No, I don't. If I made an ebonizing solution with 0000 wire wool and vinegar, it stinks to high heaven. It does do the job on certain woods with high tannins like oak, works very well with that. But to be quite honest with you, it's a dirty, horrible, smelly thing that you make with it. Never tried it with the iron filings from the Pro Edge, but theoretically it would work, I suppose. Yeah, no reason why not. Mother Bear Shed over there, hello Mike. Yes, it's been some time since I've seen you in the live feed. Glad you know you're doing well. Oh, thank you, that's very nice. So this is my 3rd or 4th, maybe 4.5 live feed. I've been doing the last 3 or 4 weeks. Thoroughly enjoying them. Don't know if my subscribers are, but I certainly am. Informative. Thank you, Martin. Appreciate it. That's very kind of you. Thank you. Andrew Dolly, hi Mike. You have changed your sharpening system again. No, I did it 2 years ago. I used the wheels since the start. Then I went to CBN wheels, and now I'm on the Sorby. Been on the Sorby. Don't know how long. 2 years maybe. Best thing I've ever done. Everything is in a state. If you find something that you feel is better, then use it and shout about it. Okay, Tim. Thank you very much. Lovely to see you. Thanks for coming. Archie May, thanks for making us aware of Wood Turning 360. I've never heard of it. Archie, brilliant. I'll say it one more time that the Wood Turning 360 is an online wood turning club. It has some professional turners in it, and it's got some wonderful demonstrations coming up. It's in its infancy, but pop across Wood Turning 360, have a look at it, and I'm sure you will like the idea of it, and it gives you an opportunity to see turners from around the world, as well as being part of a club if you can't get out physically to join a club near you, if there isn't one near you. How do you grind the radius and round edge? Simon Mason, how do I grind the radius? Very, very easily. If you imagine, I could go over there, it's not really worth it. If that is the belt, okay, you literally, if that is my hand is the belt, you literally just turn it on the bevel to there, turn it over, and the same again, just through the radius. So you can make the radius as much as you like. It is very, very easy to sharpen and very easy to maintain. And the rolled edge is this edge here on the bottom edge that comes into contact with the tool rest, and if that isn't rolled, you can do that. Put it in a vise like so, just get some sandpaper and just literally rock the sandpaper like that. And it just takes that sharp edge off so it doesn't get dug into your tool rest. How do you grind your screw cutting edge not straight? My pro edge is always straight cutting edge. Yes, the skew chisel attachment on the pro edge is for a standard grind. You just take that off, you put the table at the degree that you want for your bevel, and you literally place it and just move it to the radius you want to move it to. Honestly, it is that easy. Simon Mason, how do you grind the radius? How do you grind a skew? Yep, fine, that's okay. Done that. Mama Bear Shed. I need to get a lesson or two on the skew. I have 5 brand new ones that I need sharpened. Some glasses behind my belt before approaching that tool again. Yeah, Tracy, practice, honestly. And at sharpening the skew chisel, you can actually get a good edge on a skew chisel with a diamond card or a diamond foil. Okay, so you don't actually need to do it on the grinder all the time. You eventually do have to go and refresh the grind, but you can get away with a lot of time just by literally a diamond card. Ooh. This is a James Barry card. Diamond card, 300 grit, let's say. Okay, the Sorby doesn't have a hollow grind; it's a flat grind. But all you do is the heel, rock it onto the toe, okay, and in a circular motion, keep in contact with the bevel. Okay, that's all you need to do, and you've put an edge back on your skew. So you don't need to go to the grinder every time. You can touch up your edge quite a few times with a diamond card. Love the fact you keep calling me Martin. Yes, Mark. I'm sorry about that. It's my eyes, mate. Because You got Martin and you got Mark. Martin is a German wood turner, I think. So it's just my eyes looking at it and thinking, it's Gentle Turn, you see. Martin's from Gentle Turn, and I see Gentle Turn, gentleman, bang, done. So apologies, Mark, I'm sorry. Dennis Wake, hello. How are you, Dennis? You all right? Nice to see you. You can use the lemon juice and wire wool and then no stink. All right, okay. Ed Oliver's saying you can make your own ebonising liquid with lemon juice. Very good idea. I never tried it. I just use ebonising spray. I'm a cheat. But if you want to, like, oak really does lend itself to ebonising. That is a different kettle of fish. But it smells. But not if you use lemon. Thank you, Ed. Oh, my pleasure, Dennis. As you see, it's not working for me very well, is it? No, I have got another 2 cameras. I'll go on to that with everybody in a minute, actually, about something else I want to ask you. Well, not ask you, but tell you. That's my pleasure, Dennis. Anytime, friend. Nice to see you too. Pierre Michel. Hello. Animal, when using Hampshire sheen, don't put too much pressure on the piece when buffing. It's not a friction polish. Alan Waterworth, good words, very wise words. When using Hampshire sheen, or any wax for that matter, don't put a lot of pressure on. You want to melt the wax, but let it melt in its own time. Just light pressure will do the job, and that also reduces the risk of getting ridges and nasty little marks in your wax finish as well. Thank you for that, Alan. Appreciate it. Andrew, lost him now. Where's he gone? Ugh. Sorry. Right, okay. Gentle Turn, Martin. Look, it's Martin this time. Okay, Gentle Turn. Look for films of Alan Lacer. Very true, Alan Lacer, great skew. And also look for videos of Steve Jones. Steve doesn't teach, but you can see what you can get done with a skew. But Alan Lacer's brilliant with a skew, yeah. Mike, I know you have the Axminster dust extractor for sanding, but will the cheaper single motor record power one do a good enough job? Yes, I think it will, is the answer. I've got a record power, the entry level one that I use on my bandsaw and my table saw. And that is the entry level 1000 watt. It's noisy, but it still filters down to 0.5 of a micron, which is, in my opinion, excellent. Talk about Arduino. Ravi S. Talk about Arduino. No idea what you're talking about, mate. Andre Laurent. Hola. Buenas noches. Buenas noches. Thank you for coming. Martin, look for films. Yep. Okay. Gentle Turn. Yep. Mike. Ooh. Yes, it will. Okay. DL Woodart. Thanks for the reminder, Mike. I need a new diamond card now. Where can I get one? Yeah, buy one from Ed. Ed Oliver does the James Barry ones, and I highly recommend them. I've had mine for years. Brilliant. James Castey. Mike. Have to go. Thank you, James, very much indeed. Thanks for popping in. I appreciate it. Glad you enjoyed it. Thank you. Yes, okay. I'm forgiven. Thank you, Mark. I appreciate it. Thank you. My pleasure, Tracy. Steve Robbins shows a method of putting the high gloss. Yeah, Steve. Martin has got an absolute plethora of videos on finishing technique. Go across to Martin's channel, Hampshire Sheen channel, and you'll learn all you need to know about getting a good finish. Wood Turner 21. Yeah, thanks, Ed. Yeah, Steve Jones is Wood Turner 21. Ron, don't give up so soon. Keep practicing. Yeah, that's very true. Yeah, keep practicing. Jefferson Peak, what is a good source of practice wood for new turners in the UK? I am not that far from you in Berkshire. Oh, Jefferson Peak. Can I be honest with you? Any wood. Anything. As long as you wear dust protection for some woods, obviously. But you can use pine, you can use anything. Bits of fence post, but be careful with those because obviously they're treated, or some of them are treated. So always wear good PPE when you're doing it. But I very rarely practiced on any decent wood. In fact, I can mess up good wood as well now. That's what experience does for you. You've got decent wood that you've dried out for 4 or 5 years and you can ruin it in one slice. But no, seriously, the offcuts and everything else, practice. I still practice my my techniques on bits of scrap, basically. Yes, he is, Andrew. Absolutely. It's for Senior Richard, it's easier to cut dovetails than turn into goblins. No, I don't agree with that. Jefferson, buy a bag of firewood, you can get a few good... Yeah, that's very true. Wayneburg, excellent idea. If you go and get a bag of firewood, there's a lot of stuff in there that you are more than good for turning. And if you're lucky, you'll get some spalted wood as well. DL, but I must go. See you all soon. Great. Thank you, DL. Glad you enjoyed it. Thanks for turning up. Bye-bye. Hello, Mr. Flaming Turner. How are you? Nice to see you. Think of becoming friends with some local... Yes, that's the best thing, Jefferson. Become friends with local arborists. And push yourself out there, mate. Yeah, Rob, don't give up on anything. Just keep at it. Keep practicing, keep practicing, keep practicing. And one thing I say is that, honestly, you can turn the lathe right down. You don't have to be turning at breakneck speed, especially with the skew. Get to see what you need to achieve or what you need to do, your positioning and how you're positioning the tool to get the cut. Because you get a good cut when it's, even if you turn it by hand, it'll give you an idea of what you need to do. And then you can gradually turn the speed up and start using it. Where's your shop? I used to live in Rickmansworth, Hearts, although now I live in Carlisle, Pennsylvania. All right, I live in Bedfordshire, just out, this is MJ Cross, just outside Bedford. I live in a little village called Houghton Conquest. Ken W, experience teaches you to recognise a mistake when you're making it again. That's very true, Ken. Excellent, excellent analogy. Experience it allows you to see a mistake when you've done it and what you've done. Actually, the most important thing with experience is you know you've made a mistake, but you know how to rectify it. Whether you do is another kettle of fish, but you know what you need to do. That's the important thing. Wayne Buffer, hi Nick. Hi Nick as well, how are you? Who did you learn from? I learned from YouTube, believe it or not. Well, you believe it because you can see the quality of my work. I've never had a lesson. I'm not proud of that fact. I regret that. But I've learnt the hard way, if you like, and the stupid way as well, all through YouTube. People like Carl Jacobson when I started, Bob Hamilton, who's deceased now, unfortunately, Brendan Stemp, Robbie the Woodturner, all these guys were very giving of their time in those days, and there were very few people on YouTube, so they were the go-to people. Wyoming Woodturners, Sam Angelo, those are the sort of people that got me going, if you like, and a lot of heartache and a lot of practice. Steve Jeremiah, how did I get into wood turning? I wanted to turn something round. I was going to get a drill propelled lathe off Axminster, and then I went one ahead, as you do, and got the AW VSL 1000, and the rest is history. I got hooked. Boomster, love the workshop, so well set out, look at everything to hand, looking into getting a record cornet. How do you rate them? Boomster, I've never turned on a record power, but they are very good lathes. Everybody that's got them swears by them, so I would say the coronet is a good lathe, but I can't speak from personal experience, I'm afraid. But I'm sure there's plenty of people on here that can. Robert Lapsley, yeah, Robbie was absolutely superb, fantastic bloke and a really talented turner. Sadly missed, really sadly missed. Mark the Gentleman Wood Turner, Timmy Yoder is another good one to watch. Yes, Mark. See, I got your name right this time. Mark. Okay, Mark. Yes, Tim Yoder. In actual fact, we've got Tim Yoder, I think it's next year, booked as a remote demo in Wood Turning 360 Wood Turning Club. That's the sort of level of turner we got. They haven't got me, but some good turners. Wayne Bigfoot, I learned from YouTube. It took me 3 months before I realised I didn't have to stall and start buffering before. Yeah, 3 months. Took me over a year. So the coronet, Stuart has said that he has had a coronet for 18 months and he loves it. So there's an answer. What are you going to say about the cameras then? What am I going to... Dennis Wake. Oh, sorry. All it is, Dennis, I have a camcorder, which I use for my ordinary videos, or when I used to do ordinary videos, and I can't use it with the PC, so I got to get an encoder, and I can't get one for love nor money, and they're coming back into stock at the end of July, which will then give me 4 cameras in total, which would be just what I want. So that was all I was going to say, is that the camera setup is not as it's going to end up as, but I won't show you how it's because it's very Heath Robinson, but it works pretty well. Chris Walters, hey there Mike, it's Chris Walters from America. Hello Chris from America, it's Mike Walt from Bedfordshire. Thanks for joining me, nice to see you. I cannot believe there are 355 of you watching and chatting away here, and I've learned a lot as well, and hopefully you have, not just from me but from the comments in the chat as well. Yeah, I think it's working quite well, and it's only been an hour. Has it? Or has it been 2 hours? 9:30. Good grief, it's been 2 hours. I think we're going to have to call time in a minute. Well, not for me, but for you. You can't sit here all night, can you? Yeah, Tim Yoder's brilliant, Martin. He is, yeah. Wood turning by Brandstrop. I love my record power coronet. There's another one for record power coronet. Yeah, love it. Mama, I'm now in for £22,000 for... Oh, I'm not even going to repeat that. Excuse me. Joseph. I'm the Goblet King. I certainly am the Goblet King in breaking them, that's for sure. Emma the Tiny Turner does... Yeah, Emma is brilliant. Emma Cook. Emma the Tiny Turner. We've got her booked as well for a live, for a remote demo in the future. Do you have much luck approaching trees? No. Jake B has asked me if I had much luck. I have approached about a dozen arborists and tree surgeons over the years, and not one has got back to me. I just hear a chainsaw if I'm driving around, and I'll go and I'll make a beeline for it and try and pick something up. But no, I haven't got a constant supply. I'm lucky I've got a friend of mine who rents some ground off the Duke of Woburn estate in Bedfordshire, and I do get a chance of picking up some really nice ash occasionally, but I haven't done that for over a year now. So hopefully Yandles will get my coronet in by this week. Good, that's great news, Tony. Fingers crossed for you, my friend. Rex B, really enjoyed it. Thank you, Rex, I appreciate that. Can I do a lesson on the newer, larger lathes and what you think? I've done a review. If you mean, can I do a live on the lathe? If enough people are interested, I'm up for it. Yes, Rex. Mark Bay, time well spent, Mike. Thank you, Mark. I appreciate that. Lovely to see you, my friend. What time is your bedtime? I don't have a bedtime, Martin. Not while I'm off work at the moment. So I'm okay, don't you worry about me. Richard Chester, good evening, how are you? Glad you liked it. Richard's saying he's tried the Hope negative rake scraper. That's a big bit of kit and it really is good. I wish you would stream constantly. My wife would be happy with that. I'll stream, you know. I'm going to bed now, lads. Good night and lassies. Cheers. Yeah, a bit like flying the wall job. Dennis Wake, I now have got 3 webcams and you... Thank you, Scott, from the US. That's very kind of you. Thank you, sir. You're a star. Wish you would stream OBS with Touch Portal. Oh, you got Touch Portal, so your help, Stuart, helped me get out there. Post a live demo yesterday from my wood turning Facebook page. Oh, brilliant, Dennis. I'll have to go and have a look at that. Excellent stuff, mate. Great. Lovely talking to you always on the phone, too. Steve Robbins. Hi, Mike. Thanks for tonight. Thank you, Steve. Always a pleasure to see you. You stay safe, mate. Thanks for coming. Chris Walters, I'm a new wood turner and want to show you some pins. Well, you can show me some pins on Facebook. Send me a message and I'd love to look at them. Tree surgeons can be quite arsey. Yes, they can. Loads when seeing. Yeah, my experience with tree surgeons has been very iffy, to be honest with you. What did I lose? Oh, nothing. It's all right. Okay. No, Dennis, there's no need to thank me. Always a pleasure to help, mate. If the shoe was on the other foot, I'm sure you'd have helped me out as well. Has anybody else got any... just a quick... I'm not asking for praise as such. Does this work, do you think? This sort of a format? Once a month, maybe? Just some answers, yes or no, because it's not scripted at all. Kids are nature's way of telling you that your house is too neat. Yes, Tracy, that is very true. Tracy Keaton. I'm going to nip off camera for a second and just have a quick vape. I'll carry on talking, so you know I'm here, but I'm vaping, which is being very naughty. You can hear me dragging, and I'm all right now. Didn't get rid of it quick enough. Richard Chester, very well, thank you. Great. Oh, you've got a Marley Burl resin hybrid. That's be good fun to turn. Well, it looks like it's working okay. Everybody, see you next time. Yeah, see you, Mark. All the best, mate. Take care. Thank you. Love the format. Yeah, good. Yes, it works. Yes, it works. Good. I'm glad everybody likes it. It's very informal. And yeah, I think once a month is enough. Yeah, I think I will. That's good. Okay then. You'd rather it be once a week, Archie? I think people will get very bored, to be honest with you. I could talk all week, as you most probably gathered, but I think it's great, not just asking me questions, but seeing the answers in chat as well. It would be great if I had somebody else here looking at the questions, that I wouldn't miss any. But I'll work on that. Hi, Palmer. It's been brilliant. Great, Michael. Thank you for coming. Glad you enjoyed it. Thank you, T. I'm glad you enjoyed it, love. That's great. Thank you, Mike. Do a making with friends once a month, where I have a few of us turning at the same time. Would like to have you on the show. Sorry, Mike, do making with friends once a month, where I have a few of us turning at the same time. Yeah, that sounds good. Yeah, give me a message, or we'll have a chat on the phone and we'll work something out. That's the Flaming Turner asking me something. Once a month is okay. Maybe a quick video on how to reshape a scraper to negative rake. Yeah, I could. Trouble is, yes, I can go through the theory. That's not a problem. I can do that. What I might do is put a poll up maybe on YouTube, put a couple of subjects, and then 3 or 4 of those subjects I can cover. Wayne, I've only turned Baduk once, so I'm not qualified to answer that. Wayne is asking, always had mould on every bit of Baduk that he has turned. Once a month is fine, be different when we're back to work. Yeah, then every 6 months, please. Well, it'll be up on YouTube anyway. I might not keep this on YouTube, I have to see. It might be a bit boring, but nevertheless. Nigel, it's always handy to answer questions from experienced people in the world of wood turning. Well done, Mike. Yeah, well, I don't know who that experienced person is, Nigel, but I'd give my 2 penneth worth in anyway. Thank you for turning in. I appreciate it. Do you have any online tour of your workshop on YouTube? A very early one. But if you tune in to Beard times 16, Richard's channel on Thursday, he's interviewing me actually, and not a tour of the workshop as such, but a quick 360 around the workshop. You got fat fingers too, Mr. Flaming Turner. Yes, okay. I look forward to your call. Mike, you could have a moderator that relates. Yes, I realise that. I'll have to have something in my ear. It's not that I'm being selfish. I'm going to have a vape. Does anybody mind if I have a quick vape? I always want to try and do it on my own, because that means then I'm not beholden to anybody and not putting any pressure on somebody else to be available when I am. Because when I'm back at work, I don't know what days I'm off, etc., because I work shifts. So I'm trying to get this sorted out on my own. Not because I don't like having help, but I'm trying to get it done on my Todd. Gentleton. Martin, Mike, the format is good. Would be great to appeal more to the newcomers, perhaps. Yeah, some special advertising for the newbies. Yes, I agree, Martin. It is basically for the newer turner, and the more experienced turner. It's always great to see you and have a chat anyway. We all contribute with answers as well. Any tips for raising a burr on the Hope negative rake scraper? Yeah, all you need to do on the Hope negative rake scraper, if we take that one for example. Hang on, who asked the question? Sorry. Yeah, the tubby turner. Yeah. Literally, all you need to do, as you know, that is the way that you approach the work. That's how it is. And all you do is get a diamond credit card or similar and touch the heel and the toe and literally go around the edge in a circular motion, in a rotary motion like that. Job done. And then you've raised the burr ready for shear scraping. And the same with the round one as well. Exactly the same. A lot of people don't realise the worth of a good quality diamond credit card, a credit card, diamond card, call it what you will. They're brilliant for putting burrs and putting an edge back on your tools. Oh, Nick, sorry, yes. Well, I like saying Flaming Turner, Nick. I think it's good. Anyway, Nick, fine. Great, mate. Don't worry about the ciggies. Yeah, it's okay. It's okay for one person to say, but all the other hundreds might turn around and say it's disgraceful. Oh, dear. Have I missed anything? Go for it, Mike. Vape away. I'm going to have a vape. Sorry. John Mooney, three-corner bowl. Yes, it must start with a perfect cube held at the corners. Ken W. Yes, I missed the question, but a three-corner bowl, you have to have a perfect cube to start with. I did do a video on it. It didn't turn out perfectly, but it will give you the idea of the method. Most of my stuff doesn't turn out properly, but it does give you an idea of the method to use. Good. Thank you, Andrew. You enjoy your vape as well. Vape way search your work. Yes, my workshop, but I'm also in other people's workshops and homes as well, and they might find it offensive. So I'm not that bad. I normally do exactly as I want to do, but I am aware of political correctness to a point and respect for others, because I'm an old person, you see. Tubby Turner, it is easy. I'm not being funny. If I can do it, anybody can do it. Just concentrate, and all you want to do is just raise the burr on the top edge of, even on a scraper. You can use on your gouges. A little bit more difficult on your gouges, because you've got to maintain an even round. But practice, and it is really very, very worthwhile. Yes, I do lubricate the card normally. I use the Trend. I forget what it's called now. Yeah, I've got it in a big bottle, and it's diamond abrasive. It's lapping fluid basically. All that really does is saves your card. But the diamond cards last an age anyway, last a lifetime if you look after them. I was thinking actually on maybe not the next live stream, but the one after that, doing a winged bowl, a natural edge wing bowl. That's a thought of mine. I've got a lot of questions about that. Just my method of how I balance it all out before I turn it, and the basis. So that might be the next or the one after. Oliver's wood turner, you're laughing a lot. Ed, you on the sauce, mate? I've just got some resin and I'm excited to use it. Chris Walters, never use resin, enjoy. Paul Lockwood, you can do a 3-corner bowl where it isn't fully a cube, the corners are just not uniform. Yes, Paul, you're so succinct, mate, that's what I love about you. Paul Lockwood is saying it doesn't need to be a perfect cube, obviously. It doesn't need to be a perfect cube, but the corners won't be equal. They won't be even, they won't be uniform. So yes, but to get a uniform 3-cornered bowl, you do need a perfect cube. Thanks for that, Paul. Appreciate it. Bring me down to earth, mate. Tracy Keaton, I'm just saying they wouldn't allow that on a child's channel, so it might just show the difference. Yes, I think you're right, Tracy, actually. Totally right. That's why this is not suitable for kids. I'm looking for a decent hollowing tool. Any advice? Well, David Holden, I would highly recommend looking at going to Hope Wood Turning or to Oliver's Wood Turning and look at the Simon Hope range of hollowing tools. I swear by them personally. I've tried various ones. There are a lot of great hollowing tools out there. I just happen to prefer Simon Hope's. That's me personally. I think I've done some videos on the hollowing tools as well, so take a look at those, see how easy they are to use. Brilliant. It's a very personal thing. Mike Stratton, I haven't got a statue, mate, so you can't pull me down. Michael Stratton said he's seen me vape and he's got to pull my statue down. Well, there you go. Paul, well, no worries, Mike. That's from my own experience when I did mine. We all learn by doing these things ourselves and sharing. Very true, Paul. Yeah, I should have been more succinct. That I mean, in my eyes, you know, it should be uniform, but of course it doesn't have to be uniform, does it? So thank you for adding. Okay, David. Yeah, and as I say, if you're on Facebook, I'm on Messenger, and if you want a more personal chat, you're more than welcome. And even while I'm on furlough for everybody here. I've done it a few times now and it works rather well. If somebody's got a specific problem and I'm free at that time, I have no problems with getting in touch with you on Messenger and having a live video and showing you your answer individually. You know, that just message me and if I can do it, I will. But that's only while I'm not back at work, which is another week or two. Maybe a bit longer, I don't know. David Holden, thank you, that's okay. Tracy Keaton, I love their 6mm carbide detailing tool. Who's that? Simon Hope? Tracy Keaton? Or is that somebody else's? Are you I presume you're in the States, are you? Tracy? Mike, what's your favourite wood? Any you don't like turning? Yes, any I don't like turning. I don't like turning Monkey Puzzle. That gave me a lot of hassle, although apparently it can be very nice. I don't like turning Banksia Pod. I've turned one of those and I'll never turn one of those again. I love yew, I love ash, oak. There's no woods I dislike really. Apart from the couple I mentioned. I've never, pine, I even like turning pine for practice, because you can get a good finish on pine, it means you've got your tool control right for that day, or for that hour in my case. But my favourite, I think my favourite wood is yew, all in all. But there are so many woods, I mean even oak, I mean I love turning oak as well. Burrs, which are difficult. You didn't say, I suppose the question isn't what's the easiest wood to turn, but I mean, you know, the thing with wood, I mean, I've got great respect for people who like colouring. I don't personally get involved in colouring very much. I do enjoy it occasionally, but I get so much pleasure from getting a piece of wood and finding something in there that I didn't think was in there, and that happens with you a lot. The deeper you go, the more you get. The only problem is you can overturn you quite easily looking for that little bit of extra. It's a personal thing. Have I tried turning a miniature goblet? Yes, I have. It's in the house actually. My miniature goblet, 2 goblets about that size. and I did a bottle of wine as well and a tray. I did a video on that. That was great. That was a challenge from Yuval Harv in Italy. We did some miniature turning. You want to see some miniature turning? Have a look. Oh dear. Did you see my joke, Chris Walters? No, I didn't. Did I? I don't know. Oh yes, Simon Hope. Okay, Tracy. Yes. Yeah, they are good. They are good. The 6mm is lovely. Lovely. Yeah. George. Yes, George. Am I right there, George? Your name is George, I presume. Oh dear. Martin. Looks like Mike's channel for wood turning, micro wine bottle, goblets and tray. Thank you, Martin. Yes. Yeah. Mind you, some people, they've done captive rings on tiny things. I don't know if my friend Joseph is here still, but he's done some really good miniature turning. Yeah, you're right there, Wayne. As long as there's no resin pockets in pine, it's great. It is good to train on. Thank you, Nigel. That is very kind of you. You are a star, my friend. I should say thank you to Nigel and Alison. Thanks a lot. Paul Lockwood, why do you think pine is so underrated by wood turners? Pine can have a wonderful grain and turners love a lot of softer woods. Yeah, I don't know actually, Paul. I think because it is not difficult, but you've got to have a good tool control, sharp tools. I suppose there are different grades of pine as well. I only turn pine to actually practice on, but there you go, each to his own. But yeah, there's nothing wrong with it at all. Better than willow. Well, I've never turned willow. People just say put your shower cap on if you're turning willow, but I've never turned it. Is Keith Mr. Mike? Oh, of course it is. Oh, Keith, do you know something? My brain. I went in this morning, booked my holidays for next year. Hell of a queue there, mate. I expected to see you there as well. I'll remember this next time if you ever darken my doorstep again, Keith. George is a friend of mine who is a colleague of mine at work, Keith. And he calls me Mr. Mike and I call him Mr. Keith. What's the trick with a spalted beech? I'm struggling with it as it's soft in places, but I'm fairly new to turning. Spalted beech, it depends on what we call punkies, the soft areas. You need sharp tools, nice light cuts, and it depends, as I say, how soft the punky parts of the spalting are. You can improve the surface by putting a few coats of sanding sealer on the soft parts, let it dry completely, or even wood hardener when it's really, really soft and punky and spongy. That stiffens up the fibres and makes it a bit easier and get a better finish. So the trick, basically, I would say with any spalted wood, like with anything really, I suppose, is sharp tools and light cuts. And rub that bevel. Or not rub it, float the bevel. Chris, what of the joke was I gotta get rolling literally, get it? I'm in a wheelchair. Oh right, sorry Chris. Didn't see that. Okay mate, yeah, that's good. April Fista, I've turned pine. It has some soft and some hard grain. It's so hard to make a smooth surface. I like turning it for the challenge, and it looks cool when done. I totally agree with you, April. Yeah, pine, as Paul says, is a very maligned wood, but it's a great skill builder. And if you can get a good surface and a good finish on it, then you've done a good job. Keep booking those holidays. I need to get back to work. Yeah, Richard. Richard Chester. I agree with you, mate. When you sand punky wood, use higher speeds or you sand soft areas first. Another good point there from Paul Lockwood. If you're sanding a piece which has got different densities of wood, if you speed up a little bit to your normal speeding, then your abrasive essentially is going to run over the softer areas and not dig in so much, essentially. So because what will happen is you'll have an uneven surface because the softer wood will abrade away quicker than the harder wood. Good point, Paul. Glad you're here, mate. You really do. You ought to come up and stay for a couple of days when we do a live one. Ride the bevel as well. Yeah, Tracy's saying that. Sharp tools, ride the bevel or float the bevel. and light cuts on any spalted wood. But really and truly, when you've done your roughing cuts and you've done your basic shaping, all your cuts should be that way, ideally. Gentleman same here, I've done some wonderful pieces with pine. Oh yeah, pine, we're coming in the pine thing now. Pine is, don't get me wrong, I practice on pine, other people practice on pine, but if you can make some lovely pieces. It has got some nice figure, especially if you get through those knots and get that, you know, get some nice knotting in there. It's a bit like monkey puzzle in that way. It's full of character. Too many catches. Do you have any advice? Suntan Creations. Too many catches. Do you have any advice? Without knowing what you're doing, what you're turning, is it a spindle, is it bowls? Again, catches, slow down what you're doing, even turn the wood or the piece by hand and see what you're doing when you get your catches. You're either, what you're doing, you're losing bevel contact, or you're twisting the flute, so you're either catching the wing or you're not getting sufficient support on your tool, and that will cause a catch with a gouge. Okay, so that is the basics. Sharp tools, bevel contact, ride the bevel, light cuts, and a nice smooth action. And see where you're getting your shaving on the edge of the tool, and your goal is to keep that shaving coming from the same part of that tool. And if you manage that, you'll complete your cut without a catch. But we all get catches because we don't adhere to those points. Who's Keith P? Oh, is that George? Cheers, Keith. Thanks, mate. Michael, I've had a look at Axminster after your tip last week. My spindle gouge should arrive Tuesday. Thanks for that. Very nice shot. Great, Mike. I'm glad that you were happy with my advice. And you'll be pleased with your spindle gouge when it arrives, I assure you. I don't think you would, Paul. No. I just gag you and ask you, okay, if you've got anything to add, you can whisper in my ear and then I can convey it. You're always welcome, Paul, as you know. Okay, Chris, I look forward to seeing those when I sign off here. Thank you. Wisest wood turner on YouTube. Who's that, Tracy? Certainly not me. That must be Paul Lockwood. He's a very wise man, he is. Gentle turn. Do you ever turn balsa wood? No, Martin, I haven't. But I tell you something, I'm going to give that a go. I think I'll give that a go one day. That would be a challenge, I think. I turned some Christmas tree wood. I turned beautifully and almost looked like you. Really? Oh, okay. Well, that's basically a pine, isn't it? I think. So yeah, that's good. Stuart says he's turned Christmas tree wood and it really turned out nicely. No, my pleasure, Suntan Creations. Do you right, John Johnson, do you have any advice on live streaming? Trying to get things set up in my local club, cameras, OBS, software, hardware. John Johnson, I presume you're in the UK. I'm not the best man for technical advice on this because I've only been doing it myself 3 weeks. But if you want to get in touch with me on Messenger, and we can set up a chat, and I'll go through what I know with you. That's all I can do, and I can give you a couple of names of people that possibly know a bit more than I as well. Well, a lot more than I. But if you want to, you're on Facebook, get in touch with me on Messenger, and we can set up a meeting over the next week. That's John Johnson, by the way. Hobby Turner. Mike, what's your favourite item to turn apart from the Coventry style goblets? Hobby Turner. I know this sounds very crass. I love turning everything. I love turning bowls, wet bowls especially. My favourite's got to be goblets. I don't know why. I just like the form of a goblet, I suppose. And I do make some whole ones occasionally. But I haven't really... Boxes, I enjoy turning boxes as well. But I turned the outside of a bowl, which I haven't actually used this evening to do a demo on. But I just love turning bowls as well. But bowls and goblets are my favourite items, I think. Richard Chester turned a sycamore vase the other day that quickly became balsa wood. Well done, Richard. Yeah, okay, we've all done that, my friend. The sycamore's a lovely wood as well to turn. I was referring to you, Mr. Meyer. That's very kind of you, Tracy. I appreciate it. Even though I did vape, you still... That's very kind of you. Thank you. As I keep saying, it's only my opinion. It's not sage advice. It's just what I found works for me, whatever I say is an answer. John Johnson in the US. I can't remember your question now, John. Sorry. Stuart, Rob, it was fur, Norwegian. All right, okay. Yeah, that's, yeah, good. Have you turned wenge? No, I haven't. I know it's hard, very heavy. The nearest thing I've turned to that, I think, is I've turned some ironwood. Some Australian ironwood. That was heavy stuff, very hard stuff. Takes a lovely finish when you finally get to the stage where you can put a finish on it. Can you recommend a double-sided wet oilstone and grit grades brand, etc.? No. I don't use oilstones or whetstones. I just use diamond cards and my sharpening system. Sorry about that, Boomster. I'm not up on sandstones and oilstones and whetstones, I'm afraid. But I'm sure a quick Google will give you the best ones to go for. Paul Lockwood, what's the most unusual item that you've turned? A one-piece goblet. When I finally get a one-piece goblet done, that is an amazing achievement. I think years and years ago I did an oak burr, and it was a really weird shape, and I ended up making a natural edge bowl out of it, and I've still got it. And that was possibly the most interesting and exciting turn that I've done, because I'd never done one before. So in answer to your question, Paul, a natural edged oak burr bowl. I think balsa is classed as a hardwood. Yeah, it is actually. Balsa wood is actually classed as a hardwood, believe it or not. Have I ever had a funny turn? I've had loads of them. At my age, it becomes a normal thing, Steve. Archie, thank you very much for coming. It's been a great pleasure. I look forward to seeing you at Wood Turning 360, mate. Take care. Hobby Turner has said, Boomster, Japanese whetstones. I say I'm not an authority. I'm not an authority in anything, but definitely not on the type of whetstone to get. So there is some advice for you. Oh, ice bear stones, Chris Pooley is saying, because Chris Pooley is a very accomplished flat woodworker as well as an accomplished turner. So he uses, what was it again? I've lost it. Ice bear stones. I mean, again, I presume it's personal preference at the end of the day, but the more information you get will allow you to make an informed decision, hopefully, at the end of it. Chris Walters, I'm going to turn a birdhouse with discs of wood. Any advice? When you say with discs of wood, do you mean laminated? Do you mean laminated together? Chris, I'm not sure what you mean. Rob CP, people argue on how to pronounce wenge. Oh, it's wenge. Is it wenge? It's wenge. Ah, right. As it's an African wood, and that is how they say it, but others say it how it's spelled. Yeah, actually, no, you said it is wenge. Yeah, you are right. So it's not Stonehenge, it's Stonehenge. Is that right or not, Rob? What do you think about easy wood tools? Douglas Goddard. I said earlier, very early on, I have the easy chuck. I have one easy wood tool which was kindly given to me at Makers Central a couple of years ago. I don't use carbide for turning as such. I use the Hope carbide for hollowing, but I don't use carbide for normal turning. I use traditional tools. Not because I've got anything against carbide at all, and from what I've heard, easy wood tools are the Rolls Royce of carbide cutters. I don't know because I don't use them, but they certainly look good and they feel good in the hand, that's for sure. Recommend easy lap. Alright, okay. I'm a bit nosy. What's this? Oh, Robin Moses. Hi Mike, I'm being a bit nosy. What's the 360 Club? 360 has just been started by Martin Saban Smith. It is a online wood turning club. We're going to have demonstrations from around the world. We've booked Cindy Drozder, we've booked Oh God, I can't. We've got major turners booked for next year and the latter part of this year as well for demos. And it is basically a wood turning club online for people that can't get to wood turning clubs. And it's run the same. There is a membership fee, but go across to Wood Turning 360 and have a look at it, and it'll explain itself there to you. Well worth looking at. Great place to be. Only been going a couple of weeks. Need to go, my friends. See you next time. Grant, it's been great. Thanks very much for coming. I appreciate it. Cheers. Scott Hampton, I use a leather strop to renew the edge on my skews when they need a touch-up. Yep, I've got one there actually. You can see that? Woo! That's a leather strop I use for my bench chisels when I'm feeling I need to use them. Just that and a bit of green stuff on them. Works very well, and with skews as well. Thanks for that, Shay. I did get there in the end. Might catch you soon. Thanks for the live feed. No, thank you, Paul. Thanks very much for coming, and thank you for your sage advice, my friend. You take care and stay safe, mate. Cheers. Will the 360 videos? Yes, I think that they will be archived. WF fall. They will be archived as far as I understand, and they'll be available on the Facebook page. Whether they be on YouTube, I don't know. Nigel, do you still have the Glen Teagle carbide tools? No, Nigel, I don't. I sold them a number of years ago, but they were excellent tools, very good value for money. And I know people that use them today that used them when they first got them, and they're brilliant tools. Yeah. The pine discs, all right, I'm going to glue them into, I guess the question is, should I glue a few of them and turn it, or glue more, or should I glue it all at once? If you're going to be turning a birdhouse out of it, my answer would be glue them all together, press them together, you know, get them glued, let the glue cure, and then use it as a turning blank, basically, and then carry on turning. That's what I've done before when I've occasionally laminated wood together. Just do the whole lot together, because it is not crucial that they're going to be uniform, because you're going to be turning it to the shape you're going to be turning it. So my advice would be glue it all together at the same time. Chris. Wayne. Rob Woodsaw last year, they spoke about someone who made a desk out of a wenge and how difficult it were. I'm going off camera a minute, and then I'm going to say in 5 minutes we're going to call it a day, I think. Hang on a minute. Okay, I'm going to drill it out and forgot to add that part, because I'm going to drill it out. I forgot to add that part. Oh, okay. You still could, Chris, you could still treat it as a blank, I think, couldn't you? If you're going to drill it, you know, if you haven't drilled the hole or whatever, doesn't matter. You could just treat it like a normal wood blank, I would think. Thanks very much, Ed, from Oliver's Wood Turning. Thank you very much for turning up. I appreciate it. Thanks very much, mate. See you soon. Give my love to Karen and my regards to Joe. That's my pleasure. Good night, Mike. Good night, Michael. Thanks very much indeed. Stuart, I think the 360 Demos feature Martin will be archived for members. Yes, they will. They'll be archived for members. Very informative, Mike. Thank you very much, Michael. Nice to see you, mate. You take care. Good night now. Right, everybody. I think it is time to say good night. Oh, the Tubby Turner. Thank you so much. Very kind of you. Much appreciated. Give it till 10:05, I think, and then I'm going to say good night to you all, and going to have a nice cup of coffee. I'm getting fed up with Diet Coke. I know this is going to annoy somebody, but I'm going to have a vape. I'm not going to keep it quiet. At least it's not cigarette. Good night, Nigel. I'm glad you enjoyed it. Thanks very much indeed. It was just something I thought I'd try out, and I've enjoyed it, and I think everybody else has. It's just a way of getting together and having a natter. Good night, Keith. Thanks for turning up, mate. You take care. See you soon. See you, Scott. All the best. Cheers, mate. Thanks for turning up. Thank you, Steve. Glad you enjoyed it, Mr. Jeremiah. Russell Fillmore saying you could do the birdhouse in 2 halves. Yes, you could. That's all right, Chris. Don't you worry. Thank you, Martin Gentleturn. Thank you for your kind words. Always great to see you. You take care and stay safe yourself. Cheers now. See you next time, hopefully. Good night, Mike. Angelus. Thanks for turning up. Very glad to see you. Thanks very much indeed. A quick vape now when no one's looking. Well, everybody, I'm going to say good night to you. Well, thank you very much for turning up. I hope you learned a few things, some of you, and I'll most probably do one of these every month, I would think, and we'll just see how it goes from there. So I look forward to seeing you next Sunday at 7:30. I'm not quite sure what I'm going to be turning yet, but it'll be a turning video next week. Thanks very much, Stuart. You take care, mate. Thank you, Simon. Nice to see you, mate. You take care. Cheers now. I'm only hanging on now to say goodnight to people. Cheers, Matt. Matt Harbour, thank you very much. Sorry I didn't welcome you. I obviously missed you when you arrived. I apologise. Thanks, Chris. Glad you enjoyed it, mate. You take care. Good night. One more minute and then I'll just say good night to everybody. Good night, Rob. Thanks very much indeed. Take care, mate. Thanks for popping in. Good night, John Mooney. Thank you very much for coming. I think that's about it. Good night, all. Good night, Tubby Turner. Thanks very much for your super chat. Much obliged. All helps. Oh, only just arrived, have you, Matt? Oh, well. We've been going for 2.5 hours, mate. It's too long. Much too long for everybody, I think. But they've enjoyed it. Everybody's enjoyed it. Thanks, Mr. Hobby Turner. Glad you enjoyed it. You take care. Thanks, Krog. Cheers. Right, I'm going to say goodnight to you all. And finally say goodnight for good. And thanks very much indeed. Thanks, Richard. Good night. Good night, Graham. Good night, Wayne. Good night, all. All stay safe, and I look forward to seeing you next week. Good night now. Cheers.